Let's hope.
Okay, so
Okay.
first topic from. Oh, I need to. I
Well,
should put this in Skype
well,
for
this
Nemesis too.
we'll just briefly introduce what's going to happen on here. We're going to talk about the future of Jesus Christ. Uh, hang on a minute. It's very windy.
Off to a good start.
Nemesis,
And he's
I
he's
put.
also
Oh, we're-
There we
What's
go.
that?
Something
That'll sort that
explode.
out. We're going to talk about challenging PvE content, guys.
I put a link in Skype for you, Nemesis, for all of the points we'll be addressing. I don't know if you. I just put it in there just now.
It's shorter than the document.
It's a different thing. The document I sent you is what I typed in reply to these points. These are the points from Wooden Potatoes video. So just in case, so you have these, so you can go through them with us.
I think we should probably go over our thoughts with the viewers.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So this thing is about how we feel about what needs to happen with the challenging PvE content in the future, and also there'll be a little response to Wooden Potatoes' video, or just his general ideas, because Brazil doesn't like them, and he was going to write a massive comment. But then I said, hey, why don't we just have you rant on the stream instead? And he said, yeah, that sounds like fun. That's going to happen here. So to start this off, Brazil, why don't you tell us how you would like to see challenging PvE content develop?
So it needs to not be dungeons, because at this point dungeons they're just irrelevant. They're outdated mechanic wise. We need new things. We probably need raids. We probably need more than one raid, and if not that, we need more fractals, new fractal stuff, new mechanics. It needs to not be dungeons. Dungeons need to stay as they are, I think. I think they should be left for people to continue to do them. People who don't want to do super hardcore stuff in Guild Wars 2, but still want to have things to farm, still want to be able to make some money, just go through the motions and play stuff with their friends. I think that's what dungeons should be. So I think that's the direction it really needs to go in.
Can I ask why? Why
Yeah.
would you rather retire the good 5-man group?
I'm not saying retire it. I'm
No,
just
no, no.
saying-
But like as a future concept, as a way of like thinking, why would you put that aside instead of a bigger group? Like
What?
for ArenaNet, like why should they not make any more new dungeons and focus on raids instead, and leave the old dungeons to be?
Old dungeons should be there for farming. New stuff should be more difficult. I don't mind if it requires 5 people. I don't mind if it requires 15, but it needs to be raid-like. Everyone needs to be forced to carry their own weight. There needs to not be, like, solo this, solo that, 3-man that. It needs to be balanced in terms of what people are doing, what people are contributing. That's kind of really where I think it needs to go, if that makes sense. Was
I
that
think
satisfactory?
To a certain degree,
Okay.
but like, that's probably because my interpretation of what a raid is more along the lines of a bigger party.
Yeah.
But you said that it could still be a 5-man party. Like personally, I'm a huge fan of the 5-man party. I don't necessarily see a need for a bigger. Like we already have I was about to say raid-like content in the PvE
Open
side, like
worlds.
open world. That's about as close as I would want it to go. I don't necessarily need the bigger parties. I don't know. Like-
The open world stuff you have a certain degree of control over, but you always have people there that aren't really doing anything. Like at Tequaddle and at the Triple Trouble Worm, you have people that are just kind of ranging AFK. They're not really contributing. There aren't stuff for them to do necessarily, and then there's a lot of stuff where it's just balls of people running around hitting stuff. I don't think that's. I don't know.
I'm not saying I'm a big fan of it. The world bosses. I'm really not a big fan of it. It's more like.
Sure.
Go ahead.
If you have like a raid with 15 people, and within it you split up into smaller groups of 5, but it requires a total of 15 people to complete, I think that could potentially be fun. If it's just a flat party size of 5 people and you go in and do really, really hard stuff, I don't have a problem with that either. I think they both probably have benefits and disadvantages. I don't have a huge preference, but I'm not trying to invoke 40-man raids or 25-man raids, stuff like that. I don't think people have the attention span and the capability of even doing that anymore, because WildStar, I think, was a pretty good demonstration of that. When that came out, people realized that 40-man raiding was just too much, and it kind of failed. So,
I think there's the good thing about the 5-man thing is that it walks the fine line between, like, everyone has a certain role, like they can still have a certain role. That's sort of the goal with it, and that's not necessarily true because the content is so easy right now. But it walks the fine line, or to a certain degree.
I don't know that I agree with that. I don't think the content is necessarily easy, and I don't think that there's a lack of mechanics right now. I think the problem is that everything dies so fast you don't notice what mechanics are, and you don't notice that it's not actually the easiest stuff in the world. And people have also been doing dungeons for 3 years, so it's kind of second nature. I don't think that the content is necessarily easy.
No, it's not inherently easy. It's more of a, as you said, the practice over time. Practice makes perfect. And we've gotten to the point where the technique is so set in stone and so obvious to, like, find, like, not like find on the internet, search on the internet and find the actual strategy or how to do it, the right build and stuff like that. It's very easily accessible information for everyone, and that makes it easy. It's the idea of, like, what I want is more of, like, along the lines of better AI. That's more like the point. I want there to be a reason to for the mob itself. Like, I want it to walk away when it notices there's a danger. I want it to, like, dodge. I want it to do stuff like that actually makes the fight longer and makes people realize that it can do all these sorts of things. A bigger health pool could, of course, help, but I don't necessarily think that's the only way to do it. The bigger health pool, that is.
Do you want to jump in, Nemesis?
Yeah. Is that your voice or is the microphone?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
That is my voice.
That's awesome.
It sounds so deep.
Well, no, you guys kept saying stuff, and first thing you said, you were disagreeing on whether or not the current way dungeons are should be left alone. And I kind of tend to agree with Brazil, since, like he said, and in the past podcasts, we agreed upon the fact that it's been done for such a long time that people are used to having the option of doing something fast. And it attracted a lot of people who still remained for the fact that this is one of the few games in which you can actually do dungeon-like content in 10-15 minutes. And a lot of people don't have more than 2 or 3 hours a day, and they would rather not do just half a raid. They would rather do like 5 or 6 dungeons. And if you take that away, it's going to mess with that part of the people that remained in the game for that particular thing. Secondly, it's never wise to overwrite work. If you have dungeons and you transform them into something else, instead of putting whatever you want to transform near as an addition, not as the same thing. Because if they transform all the dungeons, you will still have, how many dungeons we have?
8.
Doesn't matter. You will have the same amount of dungeons if you transform these 8 dungeons into 8 raids. So how about leave these 8 dungeons as they are and add 8 more raids near? That's from an effectiveness point of view, it's a really good thing to do. And second thing you guys I'm really tired. Second thing you guys said about more difficult content. It doesn't have to be revolving around the number of players. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It can be 5-man or 10-man. I don't think the build system is made for 15 at the moment, 15 people, unless you split them up, and then that's kind of weird because you have to synchronize with people, and it will create a lot of elitism. If a group doesn't do well on one side and you all fail, it's going to bring guilds, it's going to create drama inside of guilds. And apparently Guild Wars 2 made this entire system so that you can enjoy playing with other people. They don't take away your loot, they don't take away your mining nodes. Like in traditional MMOs, you had to rush to a node, and people were camping nodes and stuff like that. And about the bigger HP pool and stuff like that, that's the easy way. That's the easy way that all developers tend to go for, because people are dumb enough to accept something like that. And the best example for that, we have Diablo 3 when it launched. It was just, they had no end game. They're like, fuck it, they're just going to release. But what about end game? I'll just double everything, make everything super fast, super tanky, super damage, super everything. And what are we going to call them? Just add some names in the description, like fast, retarded, one-shots you. And yeah, that's really, it's laziness. When they are incapable of coming up with proper difficult content that scales, we'll just double stuff, double HP, double everything. And I kind of agree with what Deroir. With what Deroir
It's all
said.
good. It's all good.
Deroir, with what he said, that not necessarily in the same way that AI is reactive and acts like a player. That would be the dream, but I think they don't have the money to invest in that quality of AI. But you could have more skills, and it's much easier to balance as well. Each monster, each boss can have like 3 or 4 phases, and in each phase they have 3 or 4 different skills. And the overall fight, an overall fight shouldn't take longer than 10 minutes. None of that 30 minutes hitting a boss crap. That's stupid. Especially you cannot do that in a game that advertises itself and seems to be once again heading towards being dynamic and on the fly. I don't want to run around and do DPS while running around and dodging out of red crap for 30 minutes. That's retarded. It would be fun when you sit in one spot for 15 minutes and you watch the damage meter as you spam buttons. That's a different kind of fun. But having a dynamic fight for 30 minutes could really drain you. And that's just one boss. The entire raid should be like 2 hours, tops. And every single boss should be, like I said, they should have a lot of interesting mechanics. That could work. And the number of mechanics and their intensity could scale up a little bit every single time, and that's how you do it. With multiple mechanics, you don't just have, okay, at easy mode, the fireball does 1k damage. At hard mode, it does 100k damage. Enjoy. That's not how you do it. So, yeah.
The last time you were here, Nemesis, you were talking about having a more unpredictable AI, because right now in Guild Wars the AI is pretty easy to predict, and that's why it's very, very easy to basically not take any damage at all, because you're always one step ahead of the AI. You know you know what it can do and how to react to it in every situation. So, would you say that the AI needs to become a lot more unpredictable in order for this to work, and you could have that level of volatility scale with how hard you want to make the dungeon as well?
Yeah, especially since you don't require you don't need to invest a lot into proper AI which emulates human behavior, because that's a really costly thing to do. I've been following the development of AI in science, and it's really costly. But you can have usually phases. Usually in all games until now, phases are when the boss reaches a certain HP. That's when certain phase triggers. You could have phases that trigger based on group composition and damage type. So if you have a lot of, if you do too much condition damage on a boss, it triggers a phase which fights versus condition type damage. So you have to in real time
adapt
to make the choice that would you want to go over to do so much condition damage that you activate that phase and then you deal with all the consequences of that phase, or do you scale down and remain in the phase that you were previously fighting with? And you can have that for healing, for power type damage, for meleeers, for range, and that's just based on damage type. You can have based on group composition, based on duration of the fight, based on everything really. And I just named out of the top of my head, and I didn't even came prepared today because you just told me we're doing a stream. That's just out of the top of my head. That's like 6 different phases, each one of them with 6 different abilities. That's 6 times 36 different stuff that could happen at a single boss. That's yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, that's a lot of thoughts. Has anyone got anything to add to that?
A lot of spontaneous thoughts. I don't know. There's a lot of speaking of this thing and this thing. I've forgotten half of it, but I think there's like the biggest thing I probably want to touch on is the fact that you were talking about AI and the whole all these faces and stuff. Assuming, like you were saying, that the prices of said things would be higher, that is one of the things that would easily not make the cut. Making a fight specifically for specific builds or specific armor sets, there's still going to be the easiest way to do it, and there's going to be whole sections of those, or whole segments of those, rotations, boss rotations, that won't ever be experienced because of the, like, unless we're talking like 2 or 3 different phases like you were talking about, depending on what gear. And still, with as long as it depends on gear, we're back to the topic of like gear check and account, like watching other people's account. I don't remember what that's called, but because if you go into a dungeon, assume you're going into a dungeon and you expect a certain phase, you gear up for that, and then there's one guy who doesn't have the proper gear. He's assuming something else. The entire fight is messed up and everyone gets mad at each other. Yeah. Just speaking of elitism, I guess.
Yeah, but you're counting from start, and I don't blame you, that the phases, if the boss interacts, assumes an anti-condition fighting stance, for example, to counter heavy incoming conditions. You wanted better AI, and all I said that this is like a trick to have seemingly better AI without investing a lot in the technology to make like really smart AI.
Yeah.
So as soon as the boss gets too much condition damage on him, it assumes most of the people have condition damage in the party. And then it takes the appropriate measures with certain counter skills to make the fight harder for a heavily condition populated group. And it does the same for heavy bursters, for heavy tankers, for heavy everything. And you assume from the start that it's not going to be balanced. It's not going to take the same time and skill and effort to complete in all different modes. And I'm not saying it's a bad assumption. ArenaNet really is lacking when it comes to PvE balance. There are certain paths which are totally not done at all. But I would like to believe that they would be equivalent, so that everyone that wants to play the game can do so in their own style of preference and can still enjoy the content, and adds more diversity and adds more interesting fights. And if you get bored of doing power type, if you get bored of doing bursting all the time, just even speed clearers, even zerkers who like to do bursting all the time, at one point they'll get bored and like, okay, let's try conditions this time. And if it takes the same amount of time to complete it, more or less with a 5-minute difference, then it's like, wow, I never knew this, and this is fun, and we should do this more often. And it prevents kicks, it prevents a lot of stuff. You said it, the boss will react in a certain way, and it's all because of one guy's fault. The boss reacts based on the incoming amount of damage by type. So if 1 or 2 guys are lacking, you just stay in a different phase. And we are talking about raids which by default should be more pre-made than previously. And the more pre-made stuff you can actually have even in the group system. You should modify the LFG tool to request condition type guys for that particular stuff. Of course, there's going to be problems, even in gear check situations, and people actually stay and make you link all the gear, and you look at the guy and he's clueless and he has 15k AP. Happened to me. So there's still going to be problems, but it's going to minimize those problems. And I believe the investment, since it doesn't cost that much as proper AI, like really amazing AI, it's worth the outcome. It's worth to make that type of investment, considering what you're gaining and what you're adding to the game, which again, it's not present in any MMO so far. Something like that is not present, because if it were, I would be playing that. So.
All right. I think one of the main problems with the PvE system as it is now is active defense, and how easy it is to just dodge. Even you just wait for the really annoying attack that kills you in one hit, and then you just you block it or you dodge it or something like that. I know Brazil, you think that some abilities should just go straight through this. It's not possible to dodge these things
through dodging
and blocking, right?
I don't know about dodging. I think dodging is a very integral part of the combat system, and I think that's part of why I love the combat system in the game. But that being said, there are some attacks that are undodgeable in Guild Wars 2 right now that people may not...
Uh-oh. That's happened again. This happened last time.
Did we lose him again?
Yeah, he's gone.
I can still hear you, and it's weird.
Okay, we just don't see your webcam.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It was like a scene from that movie with vampires. Like,
that was like really weird.
And you can hear his voice. I can still hear it.
Yeah, I think it's like everything just stopped, and I thought I was just gone, and I could still hear you. It's weird. Sorry.
But I think dodging, like the champion warrior right before Lupicus in Raw, his blade trail attack is undodgeable. It hits you even if you dodge. It's kind of weird. I don't know that I want stuff that's undodgeable, but maybe enemies that like steal your endurance, so it's harder to dodge. So you have to focus on endurance regeneration, or you have to put a priority on blocking things, or sharing distortion on your mesmer, or I don't know, endure pain, or defiant stance. You would have to, or go into Death Shroud, or go into Plague Form. You would have to think of other ways to deal with not being able to dodge as often, not necessarily just saying, okay, so here's this attack, and even if you dodge, it still hits you. I don't think that makes sense. Blocking, it would be fun to see an enemy that as soon as you put Aegis on, it takes the Aegis off of you and puts it onto him, and he blocks 5 attacks in a row. Something like that. I think that could potentially be cool. He counterplays your counterplay. He takes your time warp and puts slow on everybody. Stuff like that. I think that stuff like that would be really, really awesome. I don't know how hard it would be to do in terms of AI implementation, but I think it's cool. And it makes people not be so dependent on just the same builds and same stuff over and over. Another thing, this was something I really didn't like in Wooden Potatoes video about having like a 50% chance for projectiles not to be reflected. I think that's a really, really terrible implementation of that idea, because adding RNG unnecessarily, just that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I think instead, maybe you have a boss who he has an attack whenever you put down a wall of reflection, or whenever you put a feedback on him. He has this melee attack that has a huge charge up, and he punches the wall or punches the feedback, and it shatters it, and it goes on a really, really long cooldown, and then he starts with projectile attacks. But you can interrupt his projectile or his reflect destruction attack, stuff like that. I think that's a much better implementation than just kind of shitty RNG nonsense. That's what I would hope for. And I don't know. I don't know if that kind of stuff is hard to code, hard to build, hard to implement. I'm not a programmer. I don't know anything about that stuff. So that's just kind of...
It's not. It's actually not. It just has to recognize certain spell, and they're already recognized. There's a system for that. You can... most spells are getting checked in the combat log, and as soon as the AI recognizes that certain spell, just an if spell equal 1, it's C++. Anyway, if it finds this spell, it triggers something else, and it's not hard at all to implement.
Yeah, and I'm being told in chat that I'm describing the Defiance bar, which I think the break bar, I think that's good. I think that's better than Defiant stacks. Defiant stacks, it's weird because Defiant stacks don't even matter in really, really coordinated groups, because you can just take them off extremely easily. And in pug groups, someone just interrupts randomly and no one deals with it, and you just can't interrupt the boss. I think the break bar system is really cool. I think it's a really good implementation, and I think more can be done with it than just CCing and stuff like that. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that, I guess.
Well, in the GDC video that ArenaNet had, they had a presentation about the AI where they're going with it. They do seem to imply that they can have it recognize certain, or at least certain types of ability. So, positive area of effect fields, negative area of effect fields. So that capability certainly will be there, or well, they claim it will be there. So, I mean, this isn't even a particularly new thing. Someone in chat right at the beginning of the stream pointed out that in the beta, the AI could already move out of area of effect fields, but they removed it because people didn't like it. It was too challenging for them. But that seems to be coming back, and they'll probably turn it down a little bit, so they won't immediately move out of the area of effect. They'll take 2 or 3 seconds to move out of the area of effect field instead of immediately dodging it, kind of Matrix style. That's not going to happen. Do you think if they have some kind of implementation where the AI will use evades in an intelligent way, is that going to just make it horrifically punishing, or is that necessary to make things more challenging?
I don't think it will make it horrifically punishing. I think it will make people have to think more, to think about how to deal with mobs that are going to evade. Because if your goal is to go in and just explode stuff, like in Fractals, you go in, you put down a field that blinds, and then you just AoE and just kill mobs, just farm them, basically. If they are going to see lots of things coming, and they are going to evade all of your burst damage, then maybe you can deal with that by using a Ring of Warding, or a Focus Pull on Mesmer, or a Binding Blades, or Necromancer's Staff Fear, something like that, Spectral Wall. It makes you have to, I guess, preemptively deal with something that you expect them to do based on, I don't know, just what the AI is designed to do. Again, that kind of gets into problems of not having AI that's, I guess, unpredictable AI. I think in some encounters is good, like boss fights. I don't know that necessarily putting that on everything, every group of trash mobs. I don't know that that's the approach I would take. Uh, I don't know, but having to any situation where people have to think about what they know, have to expand their pool of knowledge, have to react and deal with things. I think that's good. I think that makes people better players. I think it gives them things to enjoy doing. I think that's a good thing. There are also people who don't want that and just want to watch Netflix while they go through a dungeon, and let them stay and do COF Path 1, and everybody's happy. So.
But that's so important why there's going to be, that's so important why there's going to be different levels of difficulty, surely. You know, you can, I mean, I've said that you can just turn on like a hard mode. You know, they already have challenge modes in the living story mission thingies. So you talk to a giant orb and then you say, hey, I want to do this in super hard mode. Or you could have multiple ones. You could have, I don't know, let's just rip off WoW. You could have heroic and ultra heroic and stuff like that, and just you can have different levels and obviously different rewards for each of those levels and stuff like that, so that people can still watch Netflix and do normal mode, or maybe even have a casual mode as well. People can watch Netflix and
training mode.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have a problem with that, but the way hard mode is implemented, I think that's gonna be the question. I'm sure all of you guys know Wooden Potatoes had a video on hard mode dungeons and how to implement it, and I disagreed with pretty much every single point he made, because that's not going to make it hard. That's going to make warriors the only class anyone wants to play in PvE.
But can I just, from a realistic standpoint?
Sure.
This is probably the most likely to happen.
Just buffing health and buffing damage?
As I see it. Like, they have been testing this for a long time. They've been testing gambits in the Queen's Jubilee. That was in 2013. 3 months later, they tested the fractal mistlog instabilities.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of different things. I see that is as the most likely way that they will expand it. They even implemented the challenge mode into the living story as a completely separate thing, or different thing from the gambits. I think what he's like putting forth as a likelihood is
I don't know that I disagree with the system. It's his specific ideas for the system.
Oh yeah, okay, so, fair enough.
Yeah,
that's okay.
That's I should have probably clarified my stance there, because like, having people, like, you can't rally off of enemies. You go into downstate at 10% health. You can't waypoint in the dungeon. And enemies attack faster, and stealth isn't as good. That all screams to me, okay, what class has War Banner? What class has Endure Pain? What class has Berserker Stance? What class has Defiant Stance? What class is really mobile and doesn't need stealth? What class can give permanent swiftness and weakness? Oh, okay, Warrior. And if it's not a Warrior with Nomad's gear or Zealot's gear, we're going to kick you out of the party. His entire argument, that's exactly what that screams to me. So that's why I disagree with it, for his specific points.
Touche. It can be implemented better.
Yes.
But still, I think the idea of other ways to get to do the thing more, or to make the thing more challenging, is probably the best way and probably the most likely way. I don't see him, like, that's the thing. It's a lot easier production wise to change the numbers of certain things. Like, okay, we're gonna make this spell do this thing, or whatever, instead of doing what it regularly does. It's way easier than implementing all these sorts of new AI things and stuff like that. If you're fighting the system in a whole other way, in this very simple way, it still feels harder. It's just a lot easier to make.
Yeah, and
that's exactly one of the reasons why I see it as the most likely thing.
I think that's fair. And another thing, I don't necessarily dislike doubling health or doubling damage, because it makes you have to think about new ways to deal with things. I don't know what experience any of you guys have with fractals. I went to Fractal 80 whenever that was still possible to do. And by the time you were at Fractal 80, you came to, or 70 even, you came to the point where you realized, okay, if we put on tanky gear and kill things slower, we're going to die anyways, and we're not going to kill stuff, because instead of getting one shot, we're going to get two shot or three shot. So you had to think about protection and boons like that, and damage reduction through percentage instead of through stats. You had to think about weakness, how to apply weakness. You had to think about where you can go to fight enemies, what's the best positioning. Maybe it's not as easy to fight them out in the open, or maybe if you do fight them out in the open, you have to figure out how to blind them all. You realize suddenly that you have to dodge trash mobs. And I don't know, I don't hate the idea of increasing health or damage on enemies, because there are mechanics that the enemies all have. This is a point Nike was making earlier when we were talking about this. You notice the mechanics that are already there more if an enemy dies slower. And in the current state of Guild Wars 2, like the Spider Queen in AC, the Spider Queen in AC, if you go in with a group that's going to speed clear the dungeon, it dies in like 3 seconds. But the Spider Queen has mechanics that are extremely punishing for ranged and melee players. They just don't ever notice them. And the bosses in AC at the end, all of those bosses have cool mechanics to a degree, and that's kind of my opinion, but they have no HP and they just explode. And I mean, I don't know why that's the case. I don't know why you would give enemies awesome mechanics but not give them enough health to where no one ever experiences them. And maybe that's, again, to compensate for people that go in with nomad's gear and support traits or defensive traits that want to do the dungeon, because then I guess they notice the mechanics too. But I don't know. At that point, you start to think, okay, well, I can tank all of this poison AoE anyways, and now the mechanics are there, but they don't apply to me. I think there needs to be kind of a balance between all that. AI really needs to be reactive, and it needs to do things based on what you do, and then you need to be able to implement counterplay to the AI's counterplay. It needs to be like a back and forth scenario, not a scenario where the AI just dies, because that's what we have now. That's what we've had for 3 years, and everybody's tired of that. So I don't know.
We
No,
also
I
didn't.
agree. Sorry.
Yeah, we more or less seem to. I'm assuming all of us are experienced with Guild Wars. I don't know the guy with the voice.
I am. No worries.
Yeah, we that are more experienced seem to be agreeing on more or less on these facts. But we also didn't discuss about rewards, because if raids are going to be really difficult, and you're going to get a lot more reward-wise by doing 1 million dungeons every day instead of one raid, and that's going to do nothing. And the problem is, there's such a big difference between ascended gear and exotic gear, how much it takes to actually make it, that they cannot actually give you full % chance of an ascended gear at the end of a raid, because that's too much of a reward. And then if you put it at an if you put it down under RNG progression, that sucks, because no one likes RNG loot anymore. So I don't know, I just thought of an idea. Maybe give ascended materials at the end, and then you actually get the chance to craft them, and you feel special that you're making something, and you get the materials in a dungeon, and have like one bolt of damask, like guaranteed drop at the end. And depending on the number of raids, if we get raids, we could actually finally have a mob database with loot chances and, you know, stuff that used to be enjoyable in other MMOs, where you looked up at what boss, which loot drops at what boss, and you're crafting stuff. You know, back in, it's an old system, even in Lineage, the first Lineage it was, with databases and stuff, and it was really fun. But yeah, it's really important that we get reward based on the the investment, the effort and time investment. Because fractals at the moment, a lot of people don't do fractals because there's no loot there.
And to a lot of people, it takes too long.
Yeah.
That's one
And
of the
why should
problems
I
with.
do?
Yeah, it's one of the problems with any implementation ArenaNet has lately. It's way too inclusive, and I think that's going to be a big hindrance to any type of raid content that we might want. You're speaking of a 2-hour raid. We're talking a very, very small percentage of players that actually want that, and because Guild Wars 2 is a very inclusive game, a lot of players just feel, and I'm not calling anyone in chat or anything, but some people do feel more entitled than others to have the option of participating in everything and have the option of completing everything. Everyone wants to get every piece of loot, and that's why we cannot have certain bosses have specific drops, and we cannot have longer dungeons. Everyone wants to be a part of it, and the whole community, or a large percentage of the community from Guild Wars 2 or in Guild Wars 2 comes from Guild Wars 1. We're older. We're not necessarily the small kids. We have jobs. We have stuff to do in our everyday life. We don't necessarily, or like the bigger percentage of the player base don't necessarily have the time to do one raid, not let alone two. Assume that they implement 8 raids, just like a huge number. Like that would be insane. It's not gonna happen. But assume that you cannot do all of those in one day, and still have a life. If they're that long.
I disagree completely on this point. That's the point. If they are,
I know,
it's like
but
no. You said you cannot do that in one day. I hope to God they give content that you cannot do in one day, no matter what. If I'm going to get an expansion and I'm going to finish it overnight, I'm going to go fuck off. Give me my money back.
No, I mean, I completely agree with that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the bigger percentage of the player base does not share our opinion. And that's why they won't do it. That's the single reason why they won't necessarily do it. We have a huge and very vocal group that wants bigger, larger things, but they haven't shown that they can actually make that they're actually willing to make that.
Yeah.
There's a difference between what we want and what ArenaNet necessarily is creating.
They will do it if you keep it at 2 hours, no more of that 6 hours crap. If they keep it at 2 hours and make it very not only interesting but also very rewarding, they will try to do it. Because at the moment with the bad pug group, you can take like 3 hours in fractals. So 2 hours for a raid that actually gives something, not that fractal bullshit. People will do it. They will try to do it because you get the loot at the end.
Yeah.
But if you have no loot, then yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to make it so people that fail and don't complete it don't get anything. Like if you have, I mean, crafting ascended stuff is really expensive. I just made light armor for my necromancer, and it was like 1,000 gold. It's not cheap. And if you even give stuff that's like you give people, they go in and kill the first raid boss and they get like a bunch of silk or a bunch of cotton, or they just get shit to make more expensive stuff. They get stuff that's worth their time. Maybe it takes like half an hour to kill the first 2 bosses or something, but you're, I don't know, rewarded for doing that part of the content at least. I don't know that that's a bad thing. Maybe it will become abusable in the sense of how, like, this is a very, very, very old example. Arapath 3, a long time ago, when they implemented the little bags of wondrous goods that dropped like 3 tokens, you could go in and kill the Wraith Lord's Hunter and Crusher, and you could get 3 tokens just for killing that, and you could reset the dungeon, You could go in and kill it again, and then it turned into people AFKing on top of a rock or on top of a lamppost or on top of a coral and just killing the boss and getting 3 tokens and resetting the dungeon, and then suddenly you had people that had full sets of armor just off of that 3 token rotation. And I don't want anything like that to happen, but I don't think it shouldn't be rewarding for people who can't or don't want to or think 2 hours is too much, that they don't just get anything by trying the content. Again, or make a training mode raid where you go through and the whole point of the training mode is you just kill the first boss and then you get something cool. So they could do it, or I don't know. There are ways to go about that.
I just realized how you can prevent that. Have at first boss you get 1 token, and every single boss you do after that the reward doubles. So you can farm initially if you want and keep getting 1, 1, 1, 1, or you can progress further and every single new boss your reward doubles.
And then you trade the tokens for Damask or
yeah, something like that. And if you finish everything, you get like 3 times reward at the end or something like that. And that's progression.
What if there was
what about
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of hardcore mode, instead of like training wheels, just have regular, which is not exactly a 2-hour run, but perhaps half, and then have the hardcore mode, which is about 2 hours. Then you can actually decide, and you can maybe go through all of it.
I would be fine with that. I don't really have a problem with anything like that.
That's how I see the current dungeon. Sorry, that's how I see the current dungeons most likely will evolve. Challenge mode, just like implement that. That's probably what, if they touch it, they might just touch it on that point. Introduce a hard mode with the challenge mode, which just does the whole like more health, give it another attack or something easily implemented to the old dungeons, if anything, and then the newer ones might have more interesting encounters with the challenge mode. If that's a big if.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and have regular raids, like an hour or less than an hour, then have challenge mode, which gives more loot to justify the doubling investment
all about
of
rewards.
time, and a special skin on top of the loot, so more people try to do the harder content and they get splashed, and that adds wastes time, which translates into having a longer game, which is not that easily finished, which translates into end game basically. So yeah, you have to bait people with meaningful rewards. Otherwise, you cannot make content without rewards, and you cannot make rewards without content. Especially if you're going to put a lot of rewards under paywalls, like skins only under paywall. Good luck.
Another point I wanted to, I guess, mention about rewards and stuff. RNG rewards are kind of annoying, like the way the fractal system is right now. Like, I've wanted a fractal sword since the first day fractals came out, and I don't have one. Yeah, and like now sword, I wanted one for my guardian. Now meta guardian build doesn't use sword, so it doesn't matter. Whatever. There are splits between certain types of armor, like the glorious armor in PvP. It has a unique skin, and then there's the glorious hero armor, which is the same skin but it glows. There's the carapace armor, which looks like butterflies, and then there's the luminescent armor, which is the carapace armor but it glows. Cool stuff like that. And then there's the worm armor. It's the same skin as the ascended armor, but it glows or bubbles or whatever. So maybe if raids have unique skins, which I don't think, if they exist, I don't think that's out of the question. Because dungeons all have dungeon armor skins and weapon skins and whatever. But maybe the last boss of the raid has a chance to drop the same skin, or a box that you get to pick a skin out of, but that skin looks the same, but it has a glowy effect. So that again, at the same time, that's RNG.
Like Aetherpath?
Yeah, sort of like Aetherpath. And you could be like me. I got an Aetherpath skin the first time I did the dungeon, and I thought, hey, everybody gets one of these. I'm going to sell it. Wrong.
Wow.
So that was, but I don't know. Or you could just do, I don't know, you get a certain type of tokens from the raid, and you can spend those on the armor, but then you have glowy armor that looks the same, but it's just immensely more expensive, and maybe there's a chance that it also drops as RNG. So like you get your normal cool raid armor skin that costs like 1,000 tokens, but you get the glowy version that costs like 10,000 tokens. So you really have to be dedicated, and you can show off, look how hardcore I am. But at the same time, other people have a chance to just get it as an RNG drop, so maybe they don't have to spend so much. I don't know. That's kind of something that I wouldn't mind if that happened. It would give people something to do, something for people to go for, a goal.
I would like to see skins that you have to do the more challenging difficulty for, though. I think I really don't like this attitude that you should be able to get every skin if you're just a more casual player. There's nothing wrong with being a casual, but I mean, I guess obviously that it's a larger proportion of players, so that's why ArenaNet want to go down this kind of road. But I think you need to reward people who are more skilled players and are dedicated to beating the hardest content. So, maybe these glowy skins should be only available if you beat the hardest difficulty. I don't think you should be able to get all the skins simply by just grinding for a longer amount of time. So yeah, you've got a higher chance to get it in the hardest difficulty, but people in the lowest difficulty just have to grind out for a longer. And I don't like blurring the distinction between being hardcore and just grinding a lot. I really don't like that idea.
It's a
Totally.
in the game.
It's a feature that Guild Wars 2 is lacking really hard. The exclusivity.
Yeah.
It needs to exist, but speaking of the inclusiveness that ArenaNet had, their stance on that, I don't necessarily see them implementing it anytime soon. Hopefully for Heart of Thorns, I hope they're gonna see their better ways and see the better ways and actually do it, because it's we really need it. We really, really want it.
Yeah, and it's already a tested system. It actually works, giving bragging rights in the form of skins to players. That was one of the key selling points, the key methods of success in World of Warcraft. I'll never forget when I first got my
Warglaive.
No, I was a warlock. That tier 5 armor, which was black with red eyes. Oh my god, with spikes. I went in
corrupted.
Corruptor, I think.
Corrupted?
I went in Stormwind City. I was just standing there and walking back and forth. And people were like, "Oh, you did it!" I'm like, "Yeah, I did it." So yeah.
There was a time when legendaries were like that. There was a short time.
Yes.
But then people just catch up and buy gems.
Or that.
Yeah, whatever.
I have a question for you guys. Now that we're talking about skins, am I the only one who finds the majority of skins in Guild Wars 2 really ugly?
I think
Majority. Sorry.
I was going to say that the light armor isn't that good in my opinion. I think some of the heavy sets look pretty damn good, and some of the medium sets as well. As long as you like trench coats.
Yeah.
It's just Guild Wars 2 loves great swords and trench coats.
I think they've made progress with the Black Lion weapon skins. I think those have started to look better and better. But the implementation of those, like the Halloween weapons and stuff, I think they're okay. But why would you spend 4,000 gold on a great saw when you can get a Twilight that you can change the stats on and whatever? I think there are some good skins. I think for the most part, a lot of them are just stupid, but I don't think that, I don't know why you would have really cool armor skins on your low-level crafted armor that you just find around. And maybe that's not the point you're making, Nemesis, but I guess, kind of stair-stepping armor, like armor you get before level 80. I don't think that is relevant in determining skins. I mean, people don't want to look dumb, but at the same time, you're not going to be level 65 forever, and you're not going to have like huge goggles and a trench coat with a cowboy hat if you're playing a ranger. But at the same time, level 80 skins, you see a lot of light armor classes with human cultural armor. You see a lot of light armor classes with gem store outfits and, I don't know, gem store armor on. I don't know. There could definitely be more variety, more skins, and more, I don't know, stuff. What?
Yeah, I
then
was
again,
looking,
it
I was looking
go. Yeah. Fire away.
I was looking to get the red scepter, and I was going through all the scepters, and there's no red scepter in the game except Eye of Rotgorth, which costs an absurd amount. And I saw this violet pink, dark pink scepter, which was really ugly. It was misty and violet, and it was an ugly misty violet scepter. I'm like, how long does it take to make something like that? It's like it was made in paintbrush. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's expensive. I looked at the price and it's expensive. Like, that's not normal. And the outfits is a really cool idea, but I saw this pajama. A lot of outfits looks like fancy pajamas from different cultures from around the world back in medieval times. I'm like, what is this? I would like to see more sets that look like the Balthazar set at the same depth of quality. That would be nice. Then you can actually invest. They get their funding off of skins, but the skins are ugly. Make them better so more people buy them.
Yeah,
because they can make
there, or
they made the Balthazar armor, so they know how to make good stuff. It's not like they just don't.
That's a matter of opinion, because all in all, it's a topic of like fashion, like all around fashion. There's a reason why we all wear a t-shirt or something in real life, and there's a reason why everyone is wearing the cultural tier 3 human armor, because it's fashion. The same with the whole the whole Balthazar thing. It's new, it's interesting. I don't like it necessarily. I think it's too flashy. I want something that's simple but still looks good. Like, on that opinion, we're different.
Yeah, we are. We sure are different on that opinion. It's the best outfit in the whole game. What are you talking
but like, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about. If you like, let's say, Darksiders. In Darksiders, if you like Death's armor or War's armor, they are both equivalent. I'm talking when you have something that looks like the starter robe from World of Warcraft, the pink starter robe that you put on a Tauren, and it looks really gay. When you have that as a skin, as an outfit, you're like, this looks really gay. I'm talking, even if they have like really simple stuff, like just a silk shirt, make it really high def, make it stand out, make it look like you're, I don't know, James Bond or whatever. I could understand that.
I want a suit, yeah.
Yeah, make a really fancy suit. Like you can even make fun of other games. Make the G-Man suit from Half-Life. That would be so funny. But don't have something that looks borderline pixelated and really simplist in terms of quality, not in terms of style.
Are you referring to the outfits in general, like the ones that are released for gems, or are we talking all the basic skins that are in the wardrobe?
The ones for gem, the ones from gems. I remember there are a few of them that just have they just have some fur on it, and they look like an Eskimo suit. And I'm like,
yeah.
At least give me some belt or something. Give me 2 sharp spikes or something. Put something on it.
That's completely out of context, though, for that armor. Never mind. That's a whole other topic,
that would be pretty weird. The Eskimo outfit, then 2 giant spikes attached to it. Do you think it
anything.
would be alleviated if they allowed you to mix and match the outfits bits again? I mean,
Please, no, please. This is
No?
Dante's video. Get off.
Wait.
No.
No? Wait, has
I don't-
Dante made a
no,
video?
I don't want to.
Dante
Yes.
made a video about this.
Oh?
About how
Can
we
can
should
we
have.
switch the topic?
Let's do it.
Why do you... I don't know why you guys don't like Dante so much. Every time he comes up, it says, yeah, screw that guy.
I don't have anything.
I'm not gonna
against
say it
him.
on stream.
Well,
Oh, I'm just... Am I just
people
out of the loop
think-
here? Am I just massively out of the loop?
he's nice. He's a good guy.
People think I have so many issues with so many people, but I have no issues with anyone. Like, Dante, and I'm like, so what?
I mean... Yeah, well, okay, let's talk about something else then. Obviously, Dante is off limits,
Parkour.
guys. Parkour, yeah. Okay.
Oh, it was more the outfits.
I do have something against someone though.
Oh,
What's the name
Uh-oh.
of that Asian chick?
oh,
That
Jesus
Asian chick
Christ.
which does streaming and is really bad in League of Legends and has like her tits up here and makes thousands of dollars, and she goes like 0-20 in League of Legends, and then she alt tabs quickly and she said, we won that game, really good game everyone, and then she goes like this. I have something.
I don't.
No.
I have no idea
Casey,
who that is.
Casey
Casey Tron?
Caseytron.
Yeah, that's one. I
Caseytron
have
is funny. Caseytron is just trolling though. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
Caseytron's
but
a massive
it's-
troll. It's actually
It's
quite
like
funny.
if you like Casey Tron, she uses the same methods that those preachers who make a lot of money off of dumb religious people. It's like she makes a lot of money off of people who like to jerk off a lot. It's the same principle. Just abusing the masses. So yeah.
Okay.
Because there are women that are more beautiful than her.
Yeah, like
and
me.
It's not exactly.
Exactly. Look at Brazil.
I like
Not
Brazil.
Look at Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my exclusive E3 Bethesda figures that no one else can have. They're beautiful.
No one else
Just advertise
in the
selling.
entire world can have those. They're Brazil
What's a-
exclusive.
I'm trying to. Should we talk about those skulls that Wooden
Yeah.
Potatoes talked about? You
Yeah.
wanna do that?
Let's put this train back on the rails.
Back this up. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get to it.
So I think
Shall we?
I can bring this up on stream. I'm not sure how readable it will be. You'll have to go in full screen. Sorry guys, but I'll read them out for you anyway. So would you like to talk about the bronze skulls first? That would make sense.
Yes.
Okay, so should we just go through them one by one and then we'll all comment on them?
Let's do it. I'll just
Okay.
shit on them one
Okay,
at a
so-
time.
We are now at this point. We're attacking Wooden Potatoes in order to get more viewers. This is a classic technique.
I'm not attacking
On
anyone.
YouTube. See if it works on
I
Twitch.
don't have a problem with
Just
wooden
throwing your
potatoes.
towel out there, like.
Yeah. So the first bronze skull. It's a bit like a mislock instability, isn't it? It's just an effect that's applied to the whole dungeon or raid or instance or whatever. And the first one is depression. You cannot rally. So you can't. You have to be revived instead of getting a kill off a mob or something. Can you just tell me what's wrong with this, Brazil?
Yes, I can. So I'm going to paint a picture for you as we go through this, because let's talk about this, not rallying. Whenever you go over to res someone that is dead right underneath, Moss Man goes in stealth. He comes out of stealth and he goes and he chops you with his axes, and somebody's just fucking dead right on his feet. And they can't rally off the wolves, so now everyone goes over to res them, and everyone gets chopped by Moss Man, and everyone's dead. That's a problem. You can also completely mitigate. You don't. This isn't even relevant if you have transfusion on a necromancer, or signet of undeath, or warbanner, or signet of mercy, or illusion of life, or whatever the elementalist thing is. You have hard reses, and you can just ignore the whole idea of going over and resing people up and trying to be more interactive, and you can just hard res them and then continue on. So that's the first problem, is we have hard reses. Let's move on to the next skull. You'll see where I'm going with this.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
should we let the other
Deroir,
guys have some...
No, fuck 'em.
Fuck him. Fuck him.
I agree with what Brazil said. you guys spoke Deroir. Deroir said that we shouldn't. Sometimes my ideas could have created this perfect team composition, and as I understood, he was saying that we shouldn't have a certain group composition when I was explaining my ideas, right? Well, when you have depression that you cannot rally, it instantly forces at least a few members to get the instant res, and it completely negates this. It's a hard counter. It's a hard counter which can get hard countered if you just mess up your build and get a skill that no one uses. And I think it's stupid. That is all.
Yeah. I like the example that you gave, Mossman, because he doesn't necessarily always come out of stealth and do the chop. There's always the axes out of stealth that also takes a few people sometimes. All of those, especially the one that you illustrated so perfectly with your arms, there's a cast time for him. He doesn't do it instantly out of stealth. He comes out of stealth. You can spot it. You can get out of it. As long as there's any sort of counterplay, as long as there's a way that you can get out of the death that you will inevitably suffer, I'm good with it.
That's fine.
That's awesome.
So how about that pug that, you know, you want to go in and you want to pug a fractal for you're a sadist or a masochist or whatever, maybe both.
Or Nemesis.
Yeah, and and you say I'm going to pug a fractal today, and then someone joins your group. We'll say a warrior because this is going to be relevant by the time we're at the end of this. You have a warrior that joins your party, and he thinks he's hot shit because he's a warrior, and you have another guy who is playing with lag or his graphic settings aren't that good because he's not on a good computer and he can't dodge. And if you're playing with instabilities on or skulls, whatever the hell they're called, he dies. He doesn't dodge the attack. Maybe it's not a big deal the first time. Maybe it's not a big deal the first fractal. But then when it gets to be a big deal, you just kick him out of the group and then people whisper him and people are assholes. And I think this particular implementation, not rallying, it builds up with the other stuff that he gets into, and I don't like it because we'll see, we'll see as we go along. But
let's go along then. Let's see the build up.
Now, I don't know. Maybe you guys would probably agree with this one. Doubt foes scatter from stacks. I mean, this is good. Surely, stacking is kind of a ridiculous
I guess,
mechanic,
yeah.
right?
I don't have a huge problem with this one. I think it's fine, but there are ways to deal with that, that's not a problem. But yeah,
Exactly. But that's an easy way to get. There's easy ways to get around this. You can easily pull them in. There's large AOE's, and as long as the enemies are just somewhat melee, like they will have to stay somewhat close, and you're still gonna be in range. No, no. It's not a hard thing. It's not exactly as hard or tough as the no rally thing. But, yeah.
Someone is saying in chat that I'm not saying there shouldn't be challenging content because people have bad PCs. That's retarded.
No,
I'm saying
no.
this,
I mean, his
okay.
point is he's obviously, you know. I don't know. No, I kind of agree with this guy though, because these aren't things that are default. These are things that you can enable. So I don't see why this is. I kind of don't get where you're coming from with this. To be honest,
okay.
Would you care to elaborate and respond to this chap?
I don't like Wooden Potatoes' implementation of skulls or gambits or whatever. I think they build up to a meta that is like literally 5 warriors who tank and res everyone with war banners and use mercy runes and revive, and it's just a huge elitism explosion because they can literally ignore all of the challenges that Wooden Potatoes has so carefully picked out that will make the game harder. Because literally it's just play a warrior and ignore every single one of these problems. That's my problem with it. That is the very glaring, obvious issue I see with this. And since I've said it now, by the time we get on further into it, I would hope that you guys can pick that out too. But,
Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense now. So
No, I see exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, the point
That's not
for those in chat. The point Brazil is trying to make here is that the difference in capabilities between professions, that disparity, in addition to these mechanics, is going to massively give an advantage to some professions over another. I mean, if you can't rally, then you need people with instant revive mechanics, and Warrior Warbanner is the perfect counter to this skull, and I think that's definitely a valid point. I know I understand now, Brills. I'm sorry, man. Okay.
I was laughing that some troll in chat said Brazil is saying he's going to give everyone new computers.
if I could give everyone a new computer, I'd give myself one, and then I'd give one to other people.
He'd be even better than Oprah.
Sure. Yeah.
Brazil, the new Oprah.
Bropra.
Yeah. But if we go back to doubt, Nemesis, you really don't like stacking, do you? So you would say that this sort of thing is good. So just fixing stacking is just a good thing in general, yeah?
Yeah, definitely good. I made last year when I first saw that the exploiting is not going to get fixed anytime soon, and eventually it got fixed. And by exploiting, for anyone who wants to troll, exploiting means when you go over the dungeons or under the dungeons, when you go in Ara, when you go through the steps directly to Lupicus, and then you jump from the Lupicus wall straight to the end, and you skip the cutscene, and you burst the boss, and you get tokens. That is exploiting. Abusing of bad gameplay design is when you get all the monsters to come around the corner, and all the monsters come around the corner, and before they hit you, they go like this. And during that time, everyone bursts under full buffs, and by the time the monsters actually get to hit, they are all dead. So yeah, I have a huge problem because of stacking, bursting, and short duration buffs have become their effectiveness scaled way out of proportion, and it rendered a lot of the other builds, and the diversity of the game literally killed the diversity of the game. I also wanted to say that I remember like a few times now, we have large group of monsters, even like, do we have 10 monsters at one spot? We have in some dungeons, I believe, and in fractals. But we don't have like 5 or 6 monsters which have higher HP, like mini bosses, which would require proper AoE, not bursting AoE, but sustained type AoE, which would require mostly to use conditions. Conditions are not high single target DPS; they are more for AoE, but we don't actually have monsters that would require stacking all that damage. It's much more easier just to burst stuff. So yeah, I would like to see stack monsters, but they would have much higher HP, so that you actually get to benefit from all those AoE bleeding stuff. So you see big numbers and you run around with stacks of monsters after you that have high HP, and it's fun. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
And that's just a different style of encounter. So say multiple smaller bosses that have, say, different abilities and so on. Like fighting 2 bosses at once, and they do different things and stuff, right? But they have lower HP to compensate.
Or even bosses. There's even in Elder Scrolls Online, there's an encounter where you have to kill 3 bosses at the same time. Otherwise, they just go mad. And condition damage would be perfect for that. AoE condition damage, you bring them down at the same time. That would be awesome.
We have guild missions that are like that. Bring all 3 down at the same time.
The one in the shattery purple place.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Shattery purple place.
Aren't they like
Point
far
of
apart?
interest.
You cannot AoE all 3 of them at the same time, right?
Yeah, they're farther apart. And the triple trouble worm, you kill that all at the same time.
That as well.
But yeah, what you're saying is kill all of the bosses at the same type and the same.
Yeah, stacked.
Yeah. And in SE Path 2, there are two little golems that buff each other, and they stand on top, and you want to kill them at the same time, because if you don't, one goes invulnerable, and then they both go back up to full health. It's really annoying. And yeah, like sustained condition damage. Let's do the content, boys. Let's go get it. So, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
This next goal, I've got my hands ready to go.
Yeah? Wait, are you going to go full rant mode on this?
I'm going to turn them into French fries.
Oh, wow. Okay, so perception, stealth and blind is less effective. Stealth over 2 seconds, 50% reduced duration, and blind is 50% effective.
So why do you need to blind anything if you can put weakness on an enemy permanently with Warhorns? Why do you need to stealth if you have cripple removal and chill removal and swiftness on the same ability, and you have a sword and a great sword, and you can just run past all the mobs, or you can rampage and just run past them all. You can bull's charge and run past them all. Why is stealth even relevant? That's how we used to do things when Strife played 3 years ago, when we were making dungeon guides and didn't care about stealth. We just ran through everything. So, I mean, if you're playing a class like a Mesmer that can't run very fast, or a Necromancer that maybe can't run very fast, good luck. Warrior's going to run past everything, and it's going to get, it will all get more apparent as we get towards the end. I really hate this idea, though. Because it's eliminating the mechanic, and it's eliminating the classes that offer the mechanic. You just don't need it if it's reduced that much.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I see the trend that we're gonna go on now for a little while. Instead of just going on this rant, what would your change be?
I don't
How
think
would you counter the warrior? Is what I'm interested in.
So, I guess in a situation like this, I'd probably just have a couple of gambits, maybe. I don't like. It's not my ideal implementation, I guess, like you said, and like we kind of, I guess, agree. That's probably what will happen. But I don't really know. I haven't had a ton of time to think about what specifically I would do to address stuff like this, and that's a problem, because I think depending on what the gambit or the skull or the whatever is, it can create a huge sway on what classes are valuable and what aren't. I could think of mechanics for a boss fight. I don't know, but I haven't thought about it a lot. I haven't thought about what I would do in its stead. I've just been thinking about why these things won't work and picking them apart. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is my non-response to your question.
With the stealth thing, I mean, obviously it's trying to reduce skipping the trash. So, would it not? Do you think you need to kind of go all the way, or not at all, in that respect?
Not making it harder to skip the trash. His point was making it more risky. Not making it to where you wouldn't want to skip the trash mobs. Making it riskier to do so. So, I don't know. But okay. This is a counterplay. In fractals, you have the dredge fractal, and you have mobs that they can tell when you're in stealth now. That used to not be the case. They added that in. So, I don't know. You have a route you're going to run. You're stealthed. Maybe there's an enemy that can sense if you're in stealth, and he will detect you and reveal you. So if you're going to stealth through the trash run, you just stop, and you kill him really quickly, and you move on. Or if you're not going to stealth, you just take the approach, you just run past everything anyways, and then you don't have to deal with it. I don't know. That's
speaking of dredge, it's actually a funny thing, because they should actually just have the ability to reveal people.
The dredge literally
they're blind.
Yeah,
you can't blind them. They sense by
they give
their
themselves
ears.
boons.
Why can't they? That's always been stupid to me.
The dredge
I can stealth
literally
past these blind things.
like,
they can't see me.
Yeah, the dredge do like all of the mechanics that Wooden Potatoes has suggested. They give themselves protection and regeneration and all kinds of just bullshit. So I don't know.
I always consider.
sorry, can I just like finish
Yeah.
Brazil's real quick? The thing is, this specific perception skull shouldn't necessarily be in every dungeon. It should be in a specific dungeon with hard counters already available, like the dredge, like we just talked about. Like you don't necessarily need to implement everything, like all of these things into everything. You have to accommodate for it in the dungeon itself
Right.
for it to actually be viable
Sure.
to counter that exact warrior conundrum.
His idea is retrofitting all of this onto older dungeons. I completely disagree with that because older dungeons are not set up for this type of system.
Nope.
If you throw all of this stuff on, you get a group of 5 warriors who are going to still AFK through all of the content, make tons of money, kick everyone that's not a warrior, and then it's going to be COF Path 1 farm all day long while you watch Netflix over and over. You're going to have people with huge egos that hate everyone that's not a warrior or mesmer, all kinds of bullshit. And I don't want that to happen again. I don't want there to be this like immense, massive circle jerk of why this is the best class in the game and why you're not good if you don't play it. And I don't know. I played a warrior.
I completely agree.
I played a warrior for almost 3,000 hours. I was very much a part of Strife's team when he made dungeon videos where we thought that the trinity of three warriors, a guardian, and a mesmer was the only way you could do dungeons. And then whenever people started to bring up other new ideas, and maybe this class is useful, and maybe this class can do something cool and you should consider it, that I evolved from that because the game became, there was so much more depth to it. There's so much new stuff to do. There was so much more fun to be had. There's so much more to experience out of that. And I don't want this system or a system like this to get shoved onto older dungeons where it goes from having all this cool fun stuff to warriors.
Yes.
That's the wrong move.
Yeah, I think the one wrong thing about this entire idea with the skulls thingy is exactly what you pointed out. The old dungeons. It has to be for new dungeons. It can't be like we talked about already. The challenge mode. That's probably the only way that I see the old dungeons expanding. Higher health pools, bigger damage ticks, stuff like that, because they're already pretty set.
Am I the only one who considers dredge to be far too effective for how ugly they are? They gave the most ugly and stupid monsters in the game buffs, knockdown, high damage, and numbers. They're like many, they have buffs, they knock you down, and they have high damage as well.
Master Race.
Why do you think everyone hates them?
Yeah.
I understand if they would be like dragon creatures or undead creatures or something that looks like really badass and comes from gods and dragons and stuff. But dredge, rodents, really? Why?
I'm being told that I should put forth my own ideas instead of just shitting on wood and potatoes. And I've given some. I think it would be awesome for the Spider Queen a way to solve it. Deroir is not in Skype anymore.
Oh no. Oh.
Goodbye. And now we hear the voice. But I'm still
Hola.
here.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Okay. So Spider Queen dies in 3 seconds. That's a problem because you can avoid all of its mechanics completely. So whenever it gets frozen by ice bow, it rampages, it breaks out, it spins up to the ceiling, and it shoots 1,000 little spiders out of its ass that all just fuck you up. And it comes back down after 15 seconds, and it starts to use its mechanics again. And it has a full break bar that's really fucking difficult to break. You can make Lupicus get down on 4 legs and chase after you and punch through your wall of reflect. You can do all kinds of dumb shit. And you can make all kinds of mechanics that aren't just like band-aid fixes that people will figure out how to get over it eventually. That's just going to happen. But you can do stuff outside of, you can't rally off an enemy when you're down. Blind is less effective. They're that's what I'm trying to say. So it's not like it's not like I don't have ideas and like I'm incapable of producing ideas. I think wooden potatoes ideas are bad and the implementation is bad. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not necessarily trying to prove to anyone else that I could do a better job or whatever. I'm just offering criticism and probably being a bit too forward about it, but
I would like to see if we
Someone
can
said,
come up with
"How
some
do
good
I
ideas
make-
as well. Sorry, go ahead, Nemesis.
How do I make Brazil get down on 4 legs?"
You read him the fanfic from the start of it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's that's how to do it.
No, I'm really tired and I get funny when I'm tired. I just realized how to fix the Spider Queen.
How?
If it dies faster than 30 seconds, it respawns forever.
What? No.
Genius.
Ta-dam.
Wow. I don't think that's a very good idea.
Clever. So genius.
Yeah.
In one sentence, I fixed it.
Well, I mean, if
That's usually called a bug, but okay.
Well, it is a bug, yes.
Badum,
It's a
okay,
spider.
thank you.
See, I'll point out your joke.
God.
Brazil, you should do a dramatic reading. I'm sorry. Well, don't do it now, but you can do it at the end. We'll do it in the Q&A at the end. You can do a dramatic reading of this beautiful piece of literary art. Wow, it's getting spammed in chat now. Wow, this isn't good. But
Being funny apparently creates a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Spiders
so-
aren't bugs, they're arachnids. But
Do you think that skipping should just be left alone? Do you think it needs a risk increase, or is skipping just part of the game as it is? Would you even have something like this?
I don't have a problem with skipping. If I don't. But I think skipping is considerably more valuable than killing the enemies. And I don't know that I like Nemesis is reading the fan fiction, I think.
Falling in love.
But I don't know if you. I don't mind skipping, but I know there are people that like to kill mobs and that don't like to skip. So maybe better options for both sides. Maybe make skipping the faster option, but not required because mobs don't drop any loot. So I don't know. Maybe give mobs something useful to drop, or when you kill them, you get a buff for dealing with the boss, or maybe if you kill those, the boss starts with less health because you get to it slower. I don't know. Like there are loads of ways you can fuck with that too, but I don't innately have a problem with skipping. I think it should just be. I don't think it should default to be the best choice necessarily, and you can define better and best differently. But that's kind of my opinion on that.
Wow.
Yeah, nearly when this whole thing started, when I started at one point talking about it, about when first I spoke out against Zerker, meta Zerker elitists, and I didn't even know who they were. I just kept hearing people like, I just got cursed at, I got killed for being a necromancer. I'm like, don't worry, it's going to get fixed soon. But it never did, and I made a whole video about it, calling people on their bullshit and their delusion of 13k DPS while they AFK and they hit the boss once, and they go, you do as much damage, you have same damage you have the same damage and brain as my pet. Yes. I had this idea about mob classes, just a name for it, but have, like I said, monsters which do particular stuff. And I don't know how you call them, hunters or whatever, seekers or something. Have monsters that go after stealthers and runners in general. Specific monsters that do more damage the longer they chase you or something like that. And they also make stealthing more not as gimmicky. Like, make the dungeon remove some monsters from some areas so that you can actually stealth without having to clip in the wall or stupid stuff like that, and make stealthing and running through stuff a viable option, make it official, but have a counter for it. At the moment is if you do it just right, if you clip just right, and if you add just exactly 13 seconds and you run in the first second, you make it. If not, you're dead. Make it more of a soft cap to that stuff, and also have it a counter. At the moment, it's if you do it just right, you're free. If you do it wrong, you die. So yeah.
There's actually 2 places in the game where they have those mobs that identify people, like that can spot people in stealth. Speaking of Dredge, one of the paths through the fractal is with these robots, bigger Dredge that can spot you in stealth. And in the living story, we have those Asurs walking around that actually move with their telegraphs. Imagine implementing that, and then the risk factor is not so much that you don't have much stealth, but instead if you have the revealed buff, they deal double damage, triple damage, whatever. So you have that option of you can just go full on ham on them, not bother about stealth and just have the usual encounter, or you can try to stealth with that's a risk factor. Make several like tunnels or whatever filled with these mobs. There's an incentive to like do it the regular way, and there's an incentive to actually just stealth. Depends on your party.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that will be a better implementation of this particular skull. Would you like to talk about the next skull, Brazil? Incision. Projectiles have a 50% chance to ignore reflects and deflects. I think this wouldn't be too much of a problem. Maybe if it only applied to some of them. Because having a certain level of unavoidable damage would...
What about Endure Pain and Defiant Stance?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Warriors don't have reflects.
Missile deflection, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Shield.
like,
who uses that?
I don't like this because this is implementing RNG onto something that shouldn't have RNG. Make 2 bosses in a room. One of them shoots projectiles, and the other one is like this melee badass. Whenever you put up a wall of reflect, the one that's the melee badass sees it, and he prioritizes it, and he runs over, he breaks the wall of reflect. It goes on a huge cooldown that it normally wouldn't have, like a minute or something. And then the other guy sees that the wall of reflect's broken, and he just starts unloading all of his projectiles on you. That's cool. I think that could potentially be cool. Counterplay, though, because you think, well, maybe we kill the guy who breaks the reflex first, and then we can reflect the other guy, no problem. Maybe he's a little bit tankier and harder to deal with. You just interrupt him whenever he goes to do that. You coordinate CCs, and you get his break bar down, so he can't just destroy your reflex. And whenever, I don't know, he's disabled, you can safely reflect the other. You could do stuff like that instead of just saying, 50% chance for projectiles to go through your reflection. And I mean, I don't know, the easier option is obviously to just put RNG on projectiles, or make certain projectile attacks not reflectable, like Malrona in TA is now. So I don't know, like I don't like the RNG. I would rather there actually be a solution to people using reflex all of the time, and then there be counterplay if you want to use the reflex or if they're necessary. So that's I guess what I have to say about that one.
I 100% agree with that statement. Is just having the AI deal with these things instead of just having this blanket effect that applies to it is a much better way of doing it. But sorry, go ahead.
These are the suggestions that Wooden Potato made?
Yeah.
Right, okay. No, I didn't knew what these were initially.
But
I was assuming
You may not have gotten to the end of this video if you didn't watch the whole thing.
But don't you think...
No, I just watched the... first 5-10 minutes, and he said a lot of good stuff in the first 5 to 10 minutes. I'm like, I'll just catch up the next.
Yeah. Well, these are
two guys.
in the second half of the video, he talks about these skulls that make things more challenging. But don't you think, even if you have the AI deal with the reflects in some other way, don't you think that intrinsically favors the professions that don't have reflects anyway?
Maybe, but if you can deal with them dealing with the reflects, and it's useful to have reflects, but it can be also useful not to worry about them. Maybe you just, I don't know, say we're not going to bother with reflects, we'll just go kill it, and then you do that. You use range condition damage or something, scepter necromancers and grenade engineers, and you deal with the bosses and you don't worry about the reflects. Or you can go in and melee it and put down a wall of reflect, interrupt the thing whenever it's going to break the wall, add new reflect and deal with it. And ideally it would, I guess, take the same time. I don't know. That's balance issues and it's hard to do. But
I also said a year ago, or 2 years ago, or whenever I did my suggestion video with mob classes, I said that this particular method of implementing monsters, at that point I was talking about monsters, not so much as on bosses. I think I said about bosses as well, to counter certain metas. As soon as one meta gets out of hand, the boss should adjust some skills to counter that particular meta to bring balance in PvE as well as PvP. Because you have the entire build system will be balanced around PvP. It's moronic, it's totally dumb to balance the game, to balance the build system towards PvE, and then see what you're going to do in PvP. No, because in PvP, you have the human variable, you have the human factor, and you cannot actually mess with people's minds and make them not use something. So you balance the entire build system for PvP, and then you mess with the skills and the AI as much as necessary to bring it closer to the build system. So as soon as the Zerker meta gets out of hand, as soon as bursters get out of hand, you implement progressive counters to that playstyle to bring it down a little bit. More punishment towards the certain meta until you apply balance. Because you cannot keep modifying the build system over and over and over again. If you burst too much, what are you going to do? Remove the damage on 100 blades? Then how is that going to be balanced in PvP? It's not. And you break the PvP system. Like I said, leave the build system as it is, balance it for PvP only, and then compensate for that build system with certain mechanics which counter the metas that get out of hand. And that's how you bring balance. That's the only way you bring balance. I remember that from 3 years ago. I didn't come. Okay. Prepared. I'm really tired. Sorry.
Okay. Right, let's get through these. Let's get through these as quickly as possible. The next one is enemies gain boons. 15 seconds of protection and 2 other random boons every 15 seconds. That will be infinite protection and then some other random things happening. I mean, this just makes it harder.
This is already in the game on in 2 some bosses.
Yeah.
But they have turrets that put stuff on them, and people ignore the turrets that hurt them or make it slower to kill the boss. Sorry. People ignore the turrets that people kill the protection and the retaliation turret. And then they just fight the boss while it has regeneration or whatever. If you take the turrets away and you just make it where they get boons, they're just going to do it anyways. People will, like, again, you're going to have a warrior who has Zealot's gear or Nomad's gear, and he's just attacking the boss. And the retaliation, it's not going to matter. And the protection's not going to matter because he's not doing any damage anyways. And they're just going to AFK. And I don't like this idea. I think that, like, a boss that takes your boons away, like when you put on 25 might stacks and fury and he takes them from you, and then you say, oh my god, he's going to kill us all, and you put down Well of Corruption and take them back off, you have to rebuff yourself. You get the danger away from the boss. There are better implementations than, I don't know. This feels kind of lazy and like it's not gonna do anything. It just artificially, it's like increasing their health or whatever. I don't think it solves any problems.
I'd agree with that with the protection, but surely if there was, I think more interaction with boons would be pretty good for bosses.
I think that's fine. Like I'd like to see Necromancer taking boons away or Mesmer taking boons away, like be more of a thing. And boons aren't really a thing, but like Necromancer, the Impasse Golem, and COE, you can go with Focus, you can go with Corrupt Boon, you can go in Well of Corruption. You can take his stuff off and not have to worry about the turrets as much, or like you can do cool stuff with that. But I think bosses just giving themselves boons for some reason isn't the correct approach. I'd much rather them take boons from players fighting them to, at the same time, punish the players, make it harder to deal with, make boon duration, constantly buffing, stuff like that, more valuable, being able to just like reapply, being able to completely make Guardian Staff number 4 useless like it should be. Like I think that would be cool. I'd like to see bosses take things, use them, and then you have to take them back or take them off.
But that sounds more like a creature encounter than an actual instability. Correct. Or skull or
you could make a
gambit.
skull that says these bosses now take your boons and use them.
Yeah. With like every hit or every 10 seconds this happens.
You could just add a layer of AI that's otherwise disabled unless the skull's turned on. So it's I
think there's a, I don't know if I can call it a point I have to make, but like gambits or skulls they're not supposed to be impossible.
I understand.
They're supposed to have like some sort of counterplay to them, or else this is just gonna be a meh in any situation. So yeah, sorry. I'm all for some of the easier ones. Like all of them are not supposed to be super hard, super bad. Just saying.
Yeah, that's fine. But I will.
I understand completely what you're saying, what you mean, and I agree with it fully. But I don't necessarily see it in what we define as the bronze tier of our gambit system or his gambit system.
Sure. I think that's a fair point as well. Which, if it was just a bronze tier response, I don't really know. On the auto attack, they take a boon away or something. I don't know.
I can imagine.
See what Nemesis says, kind of.
Fire away.
I just realized that the bosses could have boons that are not in the game, like boss only boon, and multiple stack of that boon, and you have to remove all the stacks.
Defiance?
Like something like, I don't know, like Might. Only it gives a certain empowerment to that boss, and you have to remove all that empowerment in order for the boss to stop using that particular attack. And you can choose to fight the boss with that attack, or you can remove all the buffs, the buff stacks, and he will stop using that attack. Gives another dynamic to it. And I once mentioned mind controlling. That could play a lot about. That could play into the condition removal. To have a lot of stacks of mind control on the target, and your party has to condition removal that away from you to regain you back as a team player. That's another thing that they can add, a mechanic. Yeah.
Okay. Should we talk about?
I have a question. These things, these bronze skulls. I didn't watch the video on from Petotis. I didn't have time. These are something that activate before the encounter, and it's something that stays within the encounter the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would turn them on before you go in the dungeon, and then they just stay on the whole dungeon, and you get extra money for each one that's turned on.
And extra magic find as
Because-
well.
Yeah.
The one doubt, for example, foe scatter when you stack, I agree with that. But if you do, actually you said this, it's too general. It's a lazy implementation, it's too general. It should be, you cannot filter all the encounters through this system. It should be specific to every, even though the idea is good, I don't believe all monsters should scatter, only some in certain locations. And it's more of a boss and actual monster implementation rather than a full overlay, a full, you know what I want to say. Yeah.
I think I get the gist. Yeah.
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 I think that's basically Brazil's whole kind of dispute with all these skulls is the generalness, right? And it needs to be. There are better ways to implement these things.
And they don't need to be implemented on dungeons that are already in the game. That's just going to be it's going to just destroy the content, and it'll just become AFK form with whatever can do it. I think because you increase the reward for every time you do a dungeon path with all of these things turned on. So it's like, why wouldn't you just play like a tank, warrior, or a guardian, and you could just AFK through all of the fights and make even more money? Why wouldn't you do that if your goal is just to get money? Because it requires nothing from you. These are all mechanics to just punish other classes very severely. But yeah, what's up?
How about, because I'm thinking about the Queen's Jubilee now, how about not making the gambit so specific as Wooden Potatoes has, but make him even more general, like they did with the or basic, sorry, like they did with the Queen's Jubilee, the
Like,
gauntlet.
constantly burning,
Like-
constantly crippled.
Yes, or the damage is heightened, or the, what was it, crowd favorite or something, where you fight two bosses.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. So every time you imagine Loopy at every corner, like that would be a change. Just to put an example, something like that. Like make it even more basic. It's simple implementation. Would that, because that wouldn't necessarily exclude the others. Like the burning would probably require more healing from everyone.
If
but that's
everybody
another
got
thing.
shit equally, that would be fine.
Exactly.
If it didn't make one class so much better than all of the others, that's what you don't want to happen. If everybody is slightly inconvenienced at the, cost of they get slightly more reward, like that's okay. I don't know.
Because that's not necessarily gonna just be full warrior parties then.
Sure.
Necessarily.
All right. Okay. What about lethargy though? You move 25% slower, and swiftness and vigor negate this.
Yeah, Warhorn, like that's all I need to say about that. It gives both of those things, and all the warriors like. What's gonna happen with the? We'll get to it at the end. We'll just.
Teapot.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about the next one then?
What is this? Famine health
Famine.
regenerates
75% slower. I mean, this is.
Have you guys ever heard of healing signet? Just by the way.
Oh wow, that's a thumbnail.
That's a thumbnail.
Yeah. You don't like this one that much? I mean, to a certain degree.
It doesn't serve a point other than making healing signet the only heal skill for anyone to ever use. I don't know, man. Like,
I don't know, man.
Okay.
No, yeah.
I don't really see the point in this one.
You missed the Nemesis thumbnail. He just put a fork into his mouth.
Oh right, well I can go back afterwards.
Yeah,
there's no
go
escape.
back
And I reckon the last one here, Bully, is just.
So hey guys, I got a plan here. So we're gonna take a tank warrior with full nomad's gear, and we're gonna take 4 warriors with zealot's gear. And since the enemy doesn't retarget, he's gonna stick on the nomad's warrior, and the warrior's gonna auto cast his stances with his script and AFK, and we're gonna.
Oh, you're. I think you're being far
I'm
too.
getting. I am.
You're being
getting,
far too cynical here. I think this is.
Yes.
I think this should just be made default. To be honest, I mean, the aggro system in the game is already pretty weird. So don't you think it would be better if the AI were a bit more focused anyway?
No, because it's too easy to abuse. It's too easy to abuse. It needs to. Aggro. It's currently supposed to work based off of a couple of things. Proximity to the enemy is a big one. Damage dealt is a big one. Some bosses, like Mossman and Archdiviner, used to have a preference, and I think the Etten used to have a preference to toughness, but they don't really have that anymore. I haven't seen that lately as a consistent pattern.
Or no one has toughness anymore.
Yeah, but like you would...
I do.
Not necessarily. We used to run, like, for that encounter, a Guardian would put on, like, a Knight's gear or something to hold aggro on Mossman or Archdiviner or the Etten better. But it got to... After some patch some time ago, that didn't happen anymore. And it just... the aggro that was there previously isn't there now. So I think aggro based off of damage... So people that are doing lots of damage generate threat. People that are close to the boss, proximity, I think that's good. I think the system just needs to be a bit more defined because it is kind of random now. Like if there's somebody constantly chilling the boss or constantly putting slow on it, the boss recognizes that that's a problem and he goes over to them to deal with it. So... Or if they're at range camping a staff necro, he shoots something at them that's really hard to dodge. So, I don't know. Like, I don't think that making an enemy target the first person it sees, that just sounds like a horrible problem. And it literally just sounds like I'm going to face tank while everyone else stands behind the boss and attacks it from behind. That particular implementation, I really disagree with.
Okay.
I
Fair
agree
enough.
with what Brazil said. At the moment, as far as I see, they have an aggro system based on a few criteria, and then they said, well, this is too obvious. Let's just add RNG to it, and it follows a certain pattern. Then it goes, let's roll a dice, and it switches target. I think there should be it should be RNG between proximity and amount of threat, as in damage and debuffing. And every single time you do more and more damage, the boss has a higher and higher chance to go after you. And as soon as he starts running after you, since there is no taunt, it should it will make you run, obviously. That will lower your amount of threat and increase the threat of the tank, which keeps going after him like, hey, come back, hey, come back. And eventually it will decide to attack the tank because it's closer proximity and the damage difference is not that high between the tank and the DPSer, since the DPSer is now running. And that's more or less a system that involves RNG, but still maintains a certain structure, so you don't get like you do Mossman, and I'm standing there and it chases all these knobs and then he turns around and slaps me for no reason. I'm like, what did I do?
There's a thing with the whole targeting system with like imagine it chasing you for just the short time extra where all your blocks and all your evades, everything is out. Just imagine it chasing you for like 5 seconds extra than that instead of switching target. That's what less likely means, I guess. It stays on you longer.
That's not what he defined in the video.
Oh well, that's how I interpret it.
He literally said in the video the first person that goes in and gets aggro on the boss keeps aggro for the whole fight.
Okay.
So
I did not hear that. That was probably the part where I slept.
Didn't he say in the beginning? I only watched the beginning of the video. Didn't he say that he's against hard, defining a hard trinity? So that's but that's not.
that's in direct conflict with what this skull is, as are that'd be
So some of the other ones are, you know, slightly weird given with what
I just want
he
to say
states.
for the stream and everyone who will watch this video on all the channels that we are going to post it, I personally don't have anything against Wooden Potatoes. In fact, I like his
don't
accent
think
and the
any
way
of
he
us
speaks very fluently. I wish I could speak as fluently as him, but English is not my main language. And again, any of us, I don't think any of us have anything against him, like he said. And we are just offering, at least I am, and I think all of us are, we are just offering feedback on some ideas. We just feedback back and forth. A lot of people seem to think like we are just bashing a certain person, and we are not. I'm having fun and I'm eating, and it's all good. So yeah.
It's all constructive criticism,
yeah.
nothing else.
Yes.
I realize I'm being very aggressive here, and very.
You're not. You're just really no. I understand this. You are just really into what you're saying, and it's hard because
Passion.
sometimes you're really involved in what you're saying, and it comes out very differently. Unless you go to art school and you learn a lot
What?
about. Yeah, when you're a good actor, you learn to separate, and you learn how you actually look from the outside when you're saying something. But none of us are actors.
Was it art school or acting school?
Well, it's acting
or
is a
acting's-
fine art, I guess
Yeah.
technically.
Oh,
But
Except for you. Maybe you went to school for that voice. You're like,
nope.
hello. I work
No,
at the
this just
radio.
came naturally.
All right. Should we talk about some silver skulls? Not
yeah,
yet.
let's do it.
Yeah. Imprisonment. Gear, skills, and traits can no longer be changed.
So this is immediately going to make what people think are the best utilities the only thing they ever take. In PvP, I can understand a system like this, where you don't want people like constantly countering other people as they play, and you want builds to kind of be like themed for a certain purpose. But in PvE, like I don't. At the same time, like I don't feel like people. Some classes change utilities around a lot. Warriors, guardians, necromancer,
Thieves.
even thieves. Well, thieves can change stuff out. Thieves change weapons a lot if you play it at like a. But like a mesmer or something that's constantly switching all kinds of shit. If they can't do that anymore, and they have to just prioritize stuff, they're going to take a unnecessary hit on damage output in some encounters, and they're going to be forced to just take like feedback or something. I don't know. So this is. I don't think this is going to do anything to help build diversity. I think it's just going to like make you pick 3 skills that have very obvious benefits and never consider anything else.
I'm very sure that there's a huge percentage of the player base that plays dungeons that still does that. And that would just be extra loot. That would just be,
Exactly.
oh, I'm going to get this silver thing because I don't change my trades. I'm just going to camp the greatsword anyway. So, I mean.
Yeah, it's free money for those people, for people that don't change stuff out anyways. So that's weird. That's a weird idea.
I do think that people shouldn't be able to. I don't even know. There has to be a consequence for playing with your fucking inventory open and switching from staff to greatsword, because that's so fucking wrong. You know, like before the fight, they buff with the staff and instantly. I know. I just realized it. You go into combat as soon as you buff. buffs trigger combat. So now you cannot go staff greatsword.
You're talking about like a guardian?
Yeah. I'm a genius. I found out.
Yeah.
As I was saying, I realized the solution.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
If
definitely
you
a
get
possible.
into combat, as soon as you buff, then you cannot do that stupid shit with going from staff to greatsword. Yes.
I think that will
The
be
solo 25 might and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah. The way my Teapot said long time ago, the first stream, he said, ArenaNet should be watching this stream.
I'm pretty sure I say that almost every time when we have amazing ideas.
You forgot to say it this time, and I
Yeah.
have the most amazing
They-
ideas.
I don't even need to say it anymore. You've said it for me. But yeah, I think that would definitely be a different implementation of it, a less harsh implementation, so you can still swap stuff out, but also it means you can't do some of the more egregious swap-arenoing. Although, don't you think this is you just have to plan ahead with this skull to a certain extent? I mean, it could be a kind of a fun challenge
Yeah,
to try
well,
and do it.
Yeah, you see, the worst case scenario that I've been imagining this whole time is where, like, you just have the ultimate pug shoutbow warrior build that you never need to change on any game type. And it's just like a universal whatever. But I'm like a huge pessimist. So, like, I immediately see all of these problems that people who think about nice things may not see. So, I don't know. I can understand how Wooden Potatoes looks at a system like this and he thinks like very nobly of it, and he thinks that it's going to like solve problems and give people stuff to do. And I don't think it's bad that he has ideas or that he talks about his ideas. Or I think having ideas and brainstorming and bouncing ideas back and forth off of people and considering viewpoints, all of that stuff, I think that's wonderful. And I'm not trying to be thought police here and just shit on Wooden Potatoes or anything.
Maybe you are.
Maybe I am, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a North Korean dictator, but I guess I tend to really try to consider lots and lots and lots of viewpoints at the same time, and these really seem to have far more negatives than any type of positive they create could make up for. So I don't know, that's my approach to this particular implementation of this particular system.
Okay. How about waypoints are always contested?
So you gotta relock to get back in, or what? Like,
yeah, that's a weird one, because that's just going to, I feel like that's really going to make people prioritize classes that aren't going to die in the first place or are more prone to not dying, because like
Necromancer.
but then again,
Yeah.
these things are supposed to like set the risk factor. You can
Yeah,
do it the easy way. You can do it like you just said, or you can go with the risk. Like, okay, we're gonna try and
But-
do this faster, guys, but there's a risk to it.
I understand that, but I think it becomes, when it's something like this, I think it becomes very, very particular group compositions can do the stuff with the risk way better than any other group composition can, and it becomes auto farm for them, and they develop egos because of it, because in turn they think, look at us farming all this gold all day long, we're better than these other classes because we do this stuff. And that's exactly what happened with COF Path 1. There were people that bragged about, I think Nemesis said, I did 10,000 COF runs, and I'm awesome because I did that. No, you're fucking not, Jesus Christ.
You're insane.
Yes, like, I don't... Having a huge ego over something that you perceive to be important that's really not, like, that's an issue.
Remember how many times I said the only thing worse than elitism is delusional elitism.
Yeah, like,
That's a really good thing. Yeah.
That's what I'm very worried that a system, again, this particular implementation of this particular system, I'm worried that it would exactly construct a system where it's just, I don't know, what we had in COF farm days. I don't want that to happen again. I played my part in that and propagating it on the wrong side, telling everybody that Warrior Guardian and Mesmer were the best classes for that. And I have been atoning for that this whole time, having people whisper me saying, people don't like me to play Ranger, and people don't like me to play Engineer or Necromancer. And I've been trying to make up for that for 2 years, and I don't want to see the same bullshit happen again. So,
Speaking of that, on behalf of anyone who quit Guild Wars 2 because of this kind of shit, but they would still like to return, I thank you. That's a really nice thing for you to do.
I think there is a certain... I sort of agree with this one, though, but I mean... I think there isn't enough punishment for failure in the current way that Guild Wars works. I mean, yeah, your armor breaks, but come on, yeah, that's not that bad, really. Let's face it.
You should downlevel.
How would you punish? How would you punish failure if you don't like this method? Do you have any idea how you would go about doing this?
Yeah, I do. The game client uninstalls itself.
That's quite the punishment.
There's a risk factor.
Yeah, that's a real risk. It deletes your character if you die.
It could honestly be as simple as if you, I don't know, die to a boss over and over, then you just don't get as much rewards from the dungeon. Like you go through a dungeon or whatever, and you if you do it flawlessly, you get a particular amount of tokens, or you go through a raid and you do it flawlessly and you get a particular amount of tokens, and you make mistakes and you mess up, you start to lose from your reward pool at the end. And at the same time, whenever people are just getting into raids, whenever raids are new and they're still figuring stuff out and they're still learning stuff, a system like that is going to prevent people from having super cool raid armor in a week into Heart of Thorns, because I don't know, you won't get the same amount of reward if you sit in there and fail for 5 hours as if you do if you clear it perfectly in 2. I think a system like that would possibly make sense.
But doesn't
like
that
diminishing returns?
Doesn't that just
over
suffer?
time?
Yeah,
or
sure.
Surely that suffers from the same problem, though, right? Because that means people are still going to prefer the professions that aren't going to die.
Yeah,
over the ones that are. So
that could generate the same problem as well there too. I don't know. It's
just
tricky.
Make the content harder. Just make Where did all the people that made World of Warcraft, the initial group, went to? Hire them. Just go, okay, guys, give me all your ideas, but don't make them in 5 hours. Problem solved. I don't get this. ArenaNet really suffers when it comes to marketing and advertising. They have a really horrible advertising team, honestly. Like they do. I saw I don't know if you guys heard of Fail Army. They do more advertising on their channel for their channel than Guild Wars 2 does on their game. And Fail Army is not a company. It is mental. And the way they present themselves, Blizzard always tend to go like way overboard. I'll never forget that. The one with the big neck, the Blizzard admin, what's his name? The one that keeps saying, then we doubled it. And there's a huge amount of memes. Anyway, that guy. He went on stage at BlizzCon. He went on stage and said, you can't believe what we are going to do. This is so amazing, I can't even tell you. I'm not even going to tell you. And then he left. I'm like,
and it was so amazing that the game is now dying.
I would have slapped him. I would have got on stage and like, And when I saw Guild Wars 2, they presented, when they announced raids, they allowed the developer, an older gentleman.
They haven't announced raids.
They announced
they did.
challenging group content.
No, challenging content.
A raid CDI.
We have no idea what it actually is.
I heard 10-man something. There was that gentleman, the old gentleman with a really bad sweater and ugly pants.
What the hell?
Am I the only one that saw it?
I think you were talking about PAX South.
Yeah, that.
Where they
It was just challenging content.
I'm sure he's a great developer. And I'm sure he does a really wonderful job. And he was a very nice person, a really friendly, nice person. But that's not an image. You don't sell your game that way. You don't get people that are not professionals. You don't get someone... For example, if you're like, I don't know, a physicist, you don't have a physicist bake you a cake. It doesn't work that way. You're a very good developer, but you don't know anything about presenting and marketing and all that stuff, selling out your product. And they keep shoving developers doing interviews, and they go like, I'm like, fuck, he talks just like me. And I suck at English. And that's not how you do it. I'm so sorry for this game because it has such a genius build system, and I did my best to advertise that, but they never said anywhere, we have this build system and this build system. No one says that. I said that. And I had hundreds of people saying, like, I didn't even know the build system was that good until you said it. I mean, yes, I know. You want to say something?
Yeah. This is not like the build system itself is not something you make a new commercial for. That's just a nitpicky thing. Other than that, I think that I personally would rather have a developer up and talk than a charismatic person with a loud mouth yelling how amazing this thing is going to be when we have no clue and there's possible failure involved. I don't want them to oversell something. That's my thing. I'm very, very scared that they might oversell challenging content. Yeah,
not oversell
and that's
it.
what a charismatic thing would do, or a charismatic person.
No. I've been in I've been in television a bit and in advertising, and the number one thing I saw this. You guys are from America, right?
No,
I'm the only
I'm
one.
Danish.
Yeah. Okay,
He's from
Brazil.
Daneland.
I'm Daneland.
You know that ad about vaccinating your kids?
Yeah.
And they had they showed it on the Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, and they said, I'm a real doctor and I say you should vaccinate your kids, and he was really professional and stuff like that. That was an actor. A real doctor never has this perfect diction and looks at the camera, because we work with the camera and we know how it is. So I know you're saying that a developer would be far more prepared to deal with everything, but you can teach an actor and a presenter how to not go overboard and what to do and how much to do, and he can deliver it much more professionally. And it works. And I'm not talking about me and you, people who like to look deeper for the deeper meaning. I'm talking about the masses. That's why on every panel, that's why you sell cars with naked women. That's how it works. No, it works. I saw this Russian model, and she was gorgeous, and she was holding a bottle of Nutella. I'm like, Nutella. It works. That's how marketing works.
I think we should bring this back
on topic.
Back to the matter
Silver
at hand.
Skulls.
Yeah.
I think we should
Nutella.
bring this back away from Nutella.
Yeah,
Guild Wars.
they are doing a really horrible job with advertising Guild Wars, in my opinion.
They should just get Dante to do it.
And
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Anyway,
how about these? We might as well do these last two skulls in one, because they're supposed to interact with each other, kind of.
Oh,
You enter downstate at 10% health, and you cannot resurrect defeated allies. Brazil, would you like to tell us why you don't like these?
War banner whenever they go down, so you don't have to res them when they're defeated.
I think that is a little bit of a problem. This will favor resurrection mechanics, group resurrection, and stuff like that over people who can't do that. Although, maybe what if your health drained faster or something instead? So,
while you're down?
Yeah.
So it takes longer to like revive you?
No. The revive takes the same time, but you have to get on them really fast, otherwise their health will drain down.
Well,
quicker.
You have War Banner still.
But you could again. It's about the risk. If you are able to get on them and start reviving them faster, you don't need the War Banner.
Yeah, but if you have 5 War Banners, then what's one wasted? That's the ultimatum. That's the peak. It's 5 warriors who res everyone, and there's no threat of dying at all in the first place. But if there is, then you can just deal with it. I mean, I guess you could have a situation arise where all of the warriors are just, and I'm really giving warriors shit because it's just the easiest thing to give shit because it can do all of this stuff. But like, I don't know, one person goes down, and then the other 4 warriors war banner at the same time, and all of them get wasted. That could be a problem then. But I don't know. At the same time, you could just say, "LOL, this guy playing warrior is not as good as me. We're just gonna kick him from the party, and then we'll format it, or we'll invite someone in our guild or whatever." So, I think this particular system really punishes players who like make a mistake. It's, I guess, a buildup of that, and it causes people to want to just say, "Fuck this guy, get him out of the party. I'm better than him." And like that's very much again what happened with COF. You say, "Lol, this warrior is not using a greatsword," or "Lol, whatever, this mesmer is playing a mesmer, but they're camping a greatsword and they're not using a melee weapon. We'll kick them out of the group and we'll get someone who's better at the class." And I don't want that to happen. And I think like the system promotes that. So.
And you think that the even not being able to resurrect people is also bad?
I don't really see the point that creates because
Yeah, it takes ages anyway. So.
Well, yeah. Why would you like even still like? What's the person gonna do? Are they just gonna AFK in the dungeon and get the reward at the end while the other people basically just carry them through at that point? Like, does it become meta to just immediately run in and die and let the other members do the thing and you get the chest pop up at the end? Like, I don't even understand the point of like this skull at all.
Well, it means if you screw up, you are handicapped for the rest of the.
I know that's what his
dungeon.
intention was. That's what his intention was, but those aren't the results that are going to come from it. That's the actual results will be detrimental and not beneficial. The idea of it making it hard and making you want to survive more is just going to like that snowballs really, really hard with all the other stuff that builds up. So I don't know. That's kind of where I was going. It's a very. I think this just has a big snowball that starts to roll. Whatever. Those are my thoughts.
What do you guys think, Deroir?
I've got nothing on this one.
Nothing?
It's
I'm
in the same boat as Brazil on this one, honestly.
Yeah, like does this negate the waypoint skull from earlier too? Does that just become free money at that point? If you can't resurrect anyways, and like the waypoints are contested, but this can only be enabled.
I don't think we should be critiquing the.
Right.
I don't think we should be critiquing the consistency. I mean, come on, he
Sure.
put this together.
Exactly.
He made his video. I think kind of attacking that is completely besides the point. I think we.
All right.
Yeah. Nemesis, do
Agree.
you agree with these ones?
Yeah, I don't favor, like I said in the beginning before I even saw this and I didn't see the video in general. And in my videos, I keep mentioning Blizzard, and a lot of the times some people think I'm a Blizzard fanboy. Others said, you're just picking on Blizzard. They always opt for the easy way out. And making a system that just overrides everything and puts a lot of mechanics on everything, and it's not specific mechanic based on the specific encounter, it's really lazy, and it could generate, besides all the problems that Brazil mentioned, it could generate a lot of imbalancement, having encounters that cannot be done at all, having encounters too easy, and just really weird. And it's the easy way out. And I hate the fact that the company as big as Blizzard did what they did with Diablo 3, which was crap, which was absolute crap. And I just remember another thing I wanted to say about marketing. Marketing, a lot of people said that, I saw in chat like, marketing. You guys don't understand what marketing does and how important it is. Diablo 3 sold 12 million copies at $50 a price. That's $500 million. 100 reviewing companies, over 100 reviewing companies gave the game an average score of 9+ out of 10. That means if you have let's amuse me for a second. And I have this crazy theory that out of $500 million, you save $50 million to bribe 100 media companies to give you an in advance score of 10 out of 10, and everyone buys your game, and you invest $50 million to make $500 million. Let's say that is possible. And the company as big as Blizzard affords to do something like that, especially when if you deny Blizzard a good review, they will crush you. No more press releases, no more nothing. No one dares to say anything about big publishers. It's marketing.
It's the Illuminati.
It's bullshit.
It is.
No, it's what works.
Let me get it. Where is it? There we
what
go.
Works.
Do you have the call-in face?
Which one? Would you like this one?
Do you have the other one?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Oh
that's
god.
beautiful.
Oh my god. What sorcery is this?
There we
I
go.
made that yesterday.
Oh
It's too big to properly fit though, unfortunately.
It is.
So,
we should have
perfect.
that as a boss.
yeah. It is pretty horrifying. Okay.
Imagine if
You
it comes out of the ground and instead of a big worm boss, it would have that face.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
That would scare the shit out of people.
Okay, should we talk about
The gold skull.
the golden skull?
There's more?
I think this is quite an
This
interesting
is
one,
Serious.
the
though.
last
This-
one.
More.
This is quite an interesting one. Last skull. If one player dies, everyone else gets kicked from the dungeon. I think this is quite. Oh well, I mean, Brazil, you're going to say that it's just going to favor people who don't die, right? And you're completely right, obviously. But I think this is quite an interesting idea. It's ultra hardcore mode. Do you think?
Yeah, it's a very interesting and very fun thought to entertain. That like the amount of the risk is just so immense. I don't know. It's fun to think about. And my experience with Guild Wars 1 is very limited, but from what I understand, this happened. This was like a thing in Guild Wars 1 in elite areas. If you died, you just got kicked out. So I don't know. Like, there's a history here with the franchise, but like, why would you ever pug if there was something like this? Why would you not be extremely selective about the people you take with you?
But aren't these also supposed to encourage the selection a bit more?
Maybe, but like, is that going to be to the point where, say you're in a big guild of 500 people, and you get to the point where you only want to play with like 8 of them, or you, I don't know, start to get rid of people and exile them from your community when they have friends and they like it, and maybe I'm very aware that there is a logical fallacy called the slippery slope. I know what that is. And I realize that I'm borderline on that a lot of this time, or just, falling right off it onto my ass. But these are all possibilities that I don't think any of this is necessarily unlikely, just considering how you can observe the Guild Wars 2 community. You can observe people that play the game. You can just observe people in general and how they interact with each other. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
I think he's gone again. But I try my best to look at the negative side of things first. And if the negatives don't seem like they could have huge fucking horrible issues, then I don't know. It's a fun idea to think about, everybody just getting kicked out. And you think about, that's, really hard. You have to be really good to do this. But consequences, There are consequences. There are problems.
Hello again.
Welcome back.
Hey,
Jesus
God,
Christ.
is that you?
Brazil, would you like to just briefly respond to the guy in chat who just said something? But that's going to be the same with all hard content. So, are you implying that we better not change anything, so
No.
everyone can just keep going on?
I think there's a right way to do things, and I think there is a wrong way to do things. It's as simple as that. I'm not saying that my ideas are right. I'm not saying that I'm like more qualified to be a game designer than ArenaNet and that I know what they're going to do and I know what they should do, because they obviously know more about it than I do. I don't know. You can do things in a way where people will enjoy it, where people will have fun. You can do things in a way where, you know, people will enjoy it and have fun, and they'll also do that at the expense of other people. Which at the same time, if there's content that not everybody can complete, that not everybody can do, I don't know, then I guess that does get to the point where people start to think they're better than everyone else. But I don't know how how severe that will be compared to you all get kicked out of the dungeon if one person just fucks up. And I don't know how severe that's going to be. Like, it's assuming you get kicked out, you get no rewards. If there's hard content that only some people can complete, but you still get something from doing it, and you can still go and do it or whatever. I don't know. That's...
Well, I think one of the things that people have against what you're saying is that surely that with every additional challenge to the gameplay, it's going to increase the level of elitism anyway, because as things gets harder, the amount of builds that people find acceptable will be lowered anyway. And although I think Nemesis is very right here, it will be delusional elitism, because it realistically, as you said, you know, unless you find another player within, you know, a minute or two, you're going to lose overall time anyway. So the elitism is kind of pointless anyway. But,
Sure.
Sorry.
Next time, get the battle axe and go,
Yeah.
This is the reason why I am very passionate about this. I already touched on this earlier. There was a point in time in the game where I thought I was like probably the best player, and I thought that the people I played with were probably the best players, and that we could do everything better than everyone else, and that we know what we were talking about, and everyone should just default listen to us because we were right, because we played with 3 warriors, a guardian, and a mesmer. And sure. And then, I don't know, excluding people, elitism, I think you can be a good player, and I think you can run meta builds and not be an elitist jackass. I think there is a different line. I think you can be an elitist, but also promote burning guardian builds before the condition patch and talk about, you know, why your idea is so much better than everyone else and why other people shouldn't be considered. I think you can apply elitism to a lot of different facets that's not necessarily meta. I play meta builds. I make meta builds. I do them for the purpose of providing something that's optimized for the current state of Guild Wars 2 and Dungeons, but I also don't kick people out of parties because they play a necromancer, or I don't tell people that because if I'm pugging, I don't say, no, you can't play a condition damage ranger in the dungeon with me because I'm the best player in Guild Wars 2. I don't do stuff like that. But I used to kick people a year ago whenever I was getting into a Raw. If someone would just die, I'd say, fuck this guy, he's an idiot, kick him out of the party. And there was a time where if someone joined the LFG, they were on a Necromancer, I'd just click the kick button and they'd be gone. And I realize the kind of problems that has. I realize what it does to other people because I guess I decided to factor in more perspective other than my own. And I don't like that. Being an asshole is fun until you realize that you're being an asshole, I guess. You realize that it's not really helping anybody. And you realize you're not going to progress forward because you're not going to try new things. You're not going to learn that there might be something better out there than what you're just stuck doing by default. I want there to be systems where people could come in and do new stuff, and where there are multiple ways to do something where they are just as good as the other way. I don't mind there being things that are bad or slower or whatever, but I don't know. That's kind of the issue with what he had overall. Everything he wrote overall, I immediately see what I used to do 2 years ago and what I've seen other people do, and I see those problems right away. Because coming from that perspective, it's really fucking easy to do. I don't want that to happen. I don't want there to be just useless hate for whatever reason. If that makes sense, that's
really something. As a gamer, when you realize this kind of stuff, you evolve so much, not necessarily in mechanical skill that takes practice, but as a mindset. You see the system and what's behind you. I always said that I'm not the best player because I don't have the most practice, because it takes a really long time to make videos and I have a life besides this. But I have vision, a lot of vision, and I have the correct mindset. And what you just said is, I appreciate it greatly, because when you first approached me, when you first sent me a message for a podcast, if you remember, I said that I don't have anything against you, but you didn't take into consideration how what you said will scale out of control, will propagate, the information will propagate, and what it can do to a community. And based on everything you said now, I realize that you are fully aware. When the people that are looked at as the best players, just because they can do, not just because they can do a dungeon really, really fast, regardless of the methods they used, and it doesn't matter if it's not working as intended. They see that the dungeon is being done this fast, which means this much profit in 1 hour. So when those people who are looked at as the elite players, the top players, if they say, in my party, a necromancer is not good because it's going to slow me down by 5%, everyone goes like, necromancer is useless. And if you get angry once and you say once necromancer is useless, just once, that's all it takes to create something where you have massmers that spend 90% of their time dead, and they still think they do 10 times more damage than a necromancer. And I've shown that in my videos. People that spend the majority of their time dead in fractals, and all they do is write in chat that necromancer, just because you're necromancer, you do 0 damage and stuff like that. And I'm sure, since he's a mesmer, and mesmers are not really known for doing a lot of damage in fractals, and I'm sure I did a lot more damage than him, but it all escalated from the top players, and that's my problem with top players. And if you realize this, and I have never seen you go like, fuck you, motherfucker. Like, for example, Nike, because Nike has a really League of Legends type of attitude.
Oh, no.
So we're going there.
Yeah.
We're going there.
And I'm sure that he's not the only one. And if you propagate that, it's going to spread like wildfire. And it's going to create a really toxic environment. And it's not like I care much, because I can do my stuff anyway, because I know how to play, no problem. But overall, it brings the game lower, and a lower game, a toxic environment means less people means less investment, and it actually hurts the game, and it hurts the people who made a living out of advertising and making content around the game, which is falling. And it's so bad. And I'm so glad you actually came to realize this. And I don't know how to express my what's the word?
I think
gratitude.
Gratitude, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deroir, do you have any closing thoughts on the golden skull? And then we're gonna talk about a theoretical skull from Zoltra, and then we're gonna
go directly to that one.
Oh yeah, you don't want to comment on this?
I forgot what the other skulls were.
Oh, the golden skull is that if someone dies, you get kicked from the dungeon.
That was the one. Was there only one?
Yeah, there's only one golden skull.
I think it's a valid challenge. Like Brazil said, dating back to Guild Wars 1 days, I still remember that, which was in itself very, very punishing, and that made it fun in itself. But yeah, I don't know. I see where it comes from. I think it's a hard thing to implement in Guild Wars 2 though, because it is very punishing.
Okay.
I think that's my closing thoughts.
Yeah, we had a skull idea from someone in chat. He said that what if you had to have 4 different professions, and you couldn't just have to stick to 3 warriors or whatever, or 5 warriors or 6 warriors.
That's interesting, but
that's pretty interesting.
That gates the dungeon itself from ever being soloable or duo or trio. It's cool. I will have to give him that. But in what we have right now, there's still the option of going with fewer numbers in your party.
What if you just made it so
like that
the same class couldn't be duplicated?
Yeah.
That seems like it would work better.
That's 5 different classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just one.
Or just a single one, yeah.
I want a personalized skin set for an achievement which can only be... the achievement requires that you do all the content in the game, all the dungeons and all the raids with that class only. So you do all the dungeons with Necromancer only, all of the raids with Necromancer only, and then you get the achievement and you get the specific skin. And everyone knows you're a badass Necromancer.
Like the PvP title.
Yeah.
Like Champion whatever it is. Champion Shadow or... I don't remember the Necromancer one. I don't have it yet. Phantom. I only have Legionnaire.
And regarding you get kicked from the dungeon if you die, I think it should be a thing for solo dungeons. Like the ones we had in the Living Story. Like a really long... It can be the progression for Legendary, guys.
It probably is going to be. Like the new Legendaries, some of it is probably going to be all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily solo dungeon, but more like the Living Story instances. Or like just story instances in general. That might easily be tied to it. Like, do this achievement, you also get this piece of rock or whatever, and yeah, no, sorry.
The precursor hunt. If the precursor hunt involves instance dungeons, and every time you fail it, you have to start over, and they're really hard and long, then that would really show everyone that you are a skilled enough player, you didn't get carried, and you completed that dungeon on your own, and you didn't crawl your way to the end.
Yeah, or you just bought it.
5 orders.
Or you just bought it from the trading post.
Shouldn't be allowed to have You shouldn't allow to party inside. And if you go outside, it resets. So you cannot sell it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think that's... again, it's coming back to the whole prestige thing, isn't it? You know, you have to deny certain people who... Or at least make it long and arduous, a long arduous journey to get the best looking skins from difficult things. I think that's something pretty much all of us can agree on, is that you need to be rewarded. You need to stand out from the crowd when you've done the super hard ultra dragon dungeon thing that is going to be implemented, or maybe it's just more guild missions. Maybe the guild halls is the challenging PvE content, Brazil. Would you uninstall the game if that was the case?
If guild halls were challenging PvE content, I don't know. I'd be disappointed. I would have seen something with lots of potential just fall so short. I don't know.
Okay, here's the final thing. The final thing we'll talk about. What about if there were some more just in the same more gimmicky ones, like the one that was come up from chat, more just random skulls. What if they were just kind of fun little restrictions like that? Would that be something you would like to see? So maybe you can your auto attack is disabled or something ridiculous like that. Just kind of weird ones. Or a random skill that you have is disabled once every 10 seconds. Just kind of really annoying troll things.
It's always been like a thing. Like speaking about random punishments, so to speak, it's always been a weird thing to me with fractals and the mislog instabilities, where some levels are a lot easier than others. Why isn't it just random at like, I don't know, a certain rate? You have these 10 that filter through these 10 levels or whatever, and it should filter for each fractal you progress, so you couldn't just re-roll the new swamp with a better instability. It would just reset the next fractal that you entered. That would be a funny thing. That would be, I don't know, more challenging.
Yeah,
I guess
challenging group content.
Oh yeah.
There are having things like disabled like that. There are. I play a card game called Yu-Gi-Oh, and there are decks that literally, that's the point of them. You activate Ground Collapse, and 3 of your opponent's monster zones are gone. They can't use them. And then you play, or maybe Ground Collapse is 2, and you play Ojama Trio, and then there go the rest of their monster zones. They can't use them. So, they can't make any monsters, and it's just annoying. It's kind of funny when you see it happen. But it's really annoying, and it gets pretty old. So I don't know, having random stuff get disabled. I think it would be
lag. Has the same effect as lag.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's been nearly 3 hours, guys.
Yep.
I think it is a good time.
I had fun.
Yeah. This was good. It was an intense discussion. Yeah. So I think it's time to wrap up. Brazil, how do we subscribe to you?
You can search Brazil GW2 or Brazil Guild Wars 2 or Brazil DNT on YouTube, and you will find maybe. Don't just search Brazil, because you'll just find girls with big asses, which isn't a bad thing if you're into that. But sometimes I do that myself.
Search your own name for ladies.
Yeah, you know it. But yeah, that's how to find me on YouTube. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I have a Twitter that is @BrazilDNT. No underscores, spaces, anything like that.
Okay. Deroir, are you a person as well?
I am a person as well. There's a lot of people in chat that have never seen me or heard of me. So my YouTube channel is Deroir Gaming, just /Deroir Gaming, or you can search for Deroir. I'm the first hit, I guess, since it's a weird name. I'm on Twitter as well, @Deroir Gaming, and Twitch, same, @Deroir Gaming. Not but you get the gist.
Exactly. Nemesis,
yes.
Where can we find you?
Yes, on YouTube.
He gets funny when he's tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, my channel is I am one and I am Legion, or you can just search for Nemesis Necromancer, Nemesis Guild Wars 2, or any of those, and you will find my channel and my guides. I usually specialize in Necromancer guides, but if Guild Wars 2 picks up again, I intend to move on to other classes. I developed some builds for Guardian, and lots of stuff.
That is very true. Subscribe to all of these 3 fine gentlemen. You're already on my Twitch channel, so you can follow that if you want to see more of that. We'll be back next week at the same time for more fun shenanigans. And below the stream, you can find links to my YouTube and Twitter, and I think that's it. Many things happen there, weird videos, and you can get notified about future streams on Twitter, and that sort of thing happens. Right, Brazil, we have to have you read the fan fiction, unfortunately. We did forget that. Rex, give fanfic, Brazil will read.
I took a screenshot. I can send it real quick.
Okay, we're going to have Brazil read this.
No, we're
just to
not.
close it out. Make it into a highlight.
With
Okay,
a
there we
real
go.
deep
It's in
voice.
chat, or yeah.
I put on my robe and wizard hat. That's it.
That's
Wait,
not
what?
it, is it?
No, that's it.
That's not it. You know for a
Mighty
fact.
Teapot was shocked. Senpai, I never knew you felt this way. Brazil said nothing, but pushed Teapot to the couch and got on top of him. Oh, Senpai, Teapot moaned as Brazil... That's it. I can't do it. I can't do it. That's as far as I can get in without just wanting to, like, cut my eyes out.
You with the voice. Read it.
Me with the voice. Mighty Teapot. What? Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Real serious, guys. Real
Okay,
serious.
here we go. Here we go.
Mighty Teapot was shocked. Senpai, I never knew you felt this way. Priscilla said nothing but pushed Teapot to the couch and got on top of him. Oh, Senpai. Teapot moaned. Moan, Teapot. Come on.
I'm not joining in on this.
As Priscilla went in for a kiss. The kiss seemed to last for hours, and Teapot's manhood grew larger and larger as he grew shorter and shorter for breath. Priscilla, I don't know. Priscilla-sama? Is it? Yeah, okay. Finally drew back, gasping for air. Gasped for air, Priscilla. Come on. How was that, Maddie? He asked. Priscilla unzipped his pants, and his manhood sprang out excitedly. Not as good as this will be, he said. Teapot licked his lips. This was going to taste way better than a pisuki. That word.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
That is
Do you
beautiful.
imagine? Do you realize that whoever wrote this, because people, whenever they think something,
Sorry,
they have
so-
a visual representation of it. So somewhere, someone is visually representing you two making up.
Terrible.
Why
Oh,
would you
my
do that?
goodness.
I mean, you both are very nice gentlemen, but why would you do that?
Yeah. No, the guy who made this is Rex. He always trolls my stream.
Yeah.
He's just a massive troll who stalks me. Yeah.
I had a stalker. I had 3 stalkers once. At one point when I was like, when Guild Wars 2 was really hyped and my guides were doing really well, I had 3 stalkers. And once my stalker was following me in the Silvari city, the Groove, yeah. And
the group.
I was eating. I'm like, I'm not going to answer because maybe he'll go away. And I ate, I took a shower, I came back, and it was like 1 hour. And then I moved, and the first second I took a step, he was like, you moved. He whispered me, you moved. Like, oh my God.
I've had that happen before. I've had, unfortunately, worse scenarios than that happen. But,
Really?
oh yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's the
Okay,
beard.
go on.
No, it will crush souls if I do. So I don't
Alright.
want to do that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and for following and subscribing to all these people. We will see you next time and on our respective channels. Cheers, guys.